All right, welcome back to the IMNerd podcast, guys. I'm your host, Freyway, and I'm here with my co-host, Kenny. And today, we have a special guest with us. We actually have a longtime supporter of the podcast, one of our day ones, and also the second person, I will say the first, but he's the second person to buy our Patreon highest tier, which is limited to one person at a time. It is called Optional Balls, because our Patreon is kind of tier based on like Final Fantasy in a way. So the highest tier is called Optional Balls. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to be featured on an episode of the podcast that month. It is very expensive, but Quest, I guess, is a fucking baller because shout out to him for actually for purchasing it.
Yeah, and if you're wondering how come he's the second person, but this is the first time you're hearing about this, it's because the first person did it and he was like, all right, guys, I'm going to be on the podcast. And then he just never got around to it. I actually messaged him the other day and I told him, I was like, hey, and he was like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Like, how do you pay $100 and literally just forget?
I was like, well, listen, at some point, I want to have you on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, you paid for it. And he was like, all right, I'll definitely get to it.
I love that. But yes, Quest actually is also one of the only people who's dueled us using our Patreon as well. Because in the $20 tier, we have the ability to play against us. And Quest is the only one I feel like who's taking advantage of that. So if those duels are actually on our YouTube channel, because that's part of the agreement, is that we'll either do it live or we'll just do it and record it and upload it to YouTube. So those duels on there.
I like doing it live. I think we only did it live once or twice, but I like when we do it live.
It's fun. It's very fun.
I think the lives actually get uploaded to the channel well.
Yeah, you can uncheck it or check that option on YouTube, but we have to check because I go live with Monster Hunter like every other day now, and
I know
those videos get posted. I started deleting them after a while because I'm like, these are starting to clog up the channel. When you look at like our videos, I hate seeing them grouped there with the podcast because they're just like me literally just playing Monster Hunter. It's not anything special. But
couldn't you just like put them in a playlist?
You probably can. I honestly am not familiar with all the inner workings of YouTube. If I'm being completely like transparent, I am learning how YouTube works as far as being a content creator, because it's a lot. Like, we put the podcast on there and that's pretty much what it's mainly used for, but then we also go live sometimes. Kenny, what are you going to say?
Okay. I just realized, so before we went live today, we saw Quest's webcam and Fraser pointed out like he could see some stuff in the background, like DC deck building game, right? I just noticed that you have a Red Ranger helmet.
Yeah.
And that is I'm so jealous. I remember when I was like 22, I almost spent way too much money buying like a super authentic, Green Ranger helmet. I was going to go ham on it, and I didn't do it. I'm pretty jealous of that Red Ranger helmet.
I was listening back to some episodes because I'm on vacation for my anniversary, and I chose the Power Rangers episode. I was like, I should like listen to this episode so we don't like rehash anything if we're gonna go deep into Power Ranger lore.
Yeah.
And it got to the part where you were like, I was gonna spend so much money on a Green Ranger helmet, and I was like, I always have that same feeling. I want to spend so much money on some dumb stuff. I got lucky. My roommates at the time bought me that for a Christmas gift one year because they found it at Toys R Us and the box was all kinds of fucked up. And I was like, I don't care about the box. I'm gonna wear that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, I've worn that during Team Wars, like, for no reason other than I could.
I grew up with Power Rangers. I'm sure you two did as well. And that show to me is literally one of the hallmarks of just being a little boy. I wanted to learn karate and martial arts because of that show. Like, I remember just being a crazy hyperactive kid. I basically couldn't sit. I can't sit still now at my big age. So I definitely couldn't sit still as a kid. But Power Rangers is great. It's one of my favorite shows growing up. I remember, again, I said this in the actual Power Rangers episode, which, side note, Kenny forgot that we even did a Power Rangers dedicated episode, which was so...
You know what? I realized why I forgot. It's because we recorded that episode when I was away from home.
I was at my
house. Yeah. There's like 3 or 4 episodes that we recorded when I wasn't at home. I was like away, and I was recording them from my dad's house. And those episodes are just a blur to me.
You know what's also interesting though? I said this, this is episode 93 of the podcast. This is fully episode 93 of this podcast. We've been doing this for a year.
So weird.
Isn't it crazy? So if we forget that we did an episode, honestly, I just chalk it up to the fact that longevity, like we've been doing this. There's a lot of content. And that's the whole point of the podcast, is just to be a library of different topics and different discussions. And I actually really like I like this because, I mean, Quest, at this point, I feel like I really know you. Like, I've played you a couple times. I know your sense of humor. I know what you like and what you don't like and stuff like that. So it's really, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's easy to have these kinds of conversations.
One of the coolest things about, I guess, the podcast, and I started to feel this when I first started streaming 4 years ago, I think I started streaming, is you meet people, you end up meeting people through whatever you're doing, and you end up knowing and becoming friends with them, and like, you would have just never met them is the point. You know what I mean? Just like how
Yeah.
you meet people through Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I've met people through streaming and now through the podcast that I'm like legitimately friends with. And it's just like such an interesting way, I guess, to meet people.
Yeah, we get some crazy I just sent Kenny a crazy video this morning of Joe Dietrich. He like
God.
oh, it was so good because he just turned 21. Shout out to Joe. He just turned 21 and he was having a really good night. It was really funny. The video was amazing. But yeah, I love the fact that so many people are supporting it and are liking what we're doing. I mean, our last episode with Nazar is literally on pace right now to be the biggest episode of all time. I'm so shocked.
I cannot believe he just outed Cheater Chang like that.
Oh yeah, he went ham. Like that episode is crazy.
Yeah, he went ham in general.
Immediately.
Like, he like no build up at fucking go. He was like going in on.
And the funny part is the whole episode I kept thinking to myself, Kenny is going to love this guy because this is the exact kind of energy that like Kenny likes in real life. Like Kenny is such a chaotic human being. And I was like, Nazar, because you were just smiling 90% of the episode at some of the shit he was saying.
I was just letting my man go.
My eyes were so big. I was like, oh my God.
I could tell from like the tone of your voice, you were a little nervous. You're like, should I stop him from saying something before he says something bad? And then he just dropped the bomb. Substance abuse. I was like, too late, can't stop it now.
I was like, well, the fucking cat's out the bag. What are you gonna do? It's great. I love it here.
He was going ham. He was going ham on the judges. Like he would not let them live.
That was insane.
He was like, they need to go to Subway. Like he wouldn't stop. Like
all right. So speaking of like podcast episodes, Quest, what is your favorite? What is your favorite episode of the podcast? Like, what are your favorite episodes? What are some of your peaks? You would say there's 93 of them to choose from. So if it takes you a second to get the right ones in your head, that's absolutely fine because we don't even know how many or which ones we did at this point.
Okay, so the first One Piece episode,
yes.
Which it's funny because that's where I joined the Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like to hear.
The Joy Boy episode.
Yep, One Piece Part 2, basically.
Power Rangers, both. Okay, the Kingdom Hearts episode and the one immediately following it where Kenny and I were both let down because Elsa didn't get to let it go. But we did get Sora and Smash.
Yes.
So
Elsa lets it go. I'll never forget. Kenny was trolling saying that Elsa's going to be in Smash as the last character. Not honestly, I would think it was Anthony who had the damn thing. Elsa lets it. Somebody said Elsa lets it go. That was wild.
It was great. I loved it.
Did you see our live react to that? Like Sora being in Smash?
Yes, I did. And it was funny because I remember I dark bribed for that episode. I think I'm the only person to use the dark bribe perk too.
I don't think anyone has actually. It's crazy. The amount of people at that tier who don't use any of the perks. If you're at the $20 tier on our Patreon, like we don't mind if you use the perks. Like there are many of them, and honestly, people just haven't used them. They're like just giving us the money and not doing anything with it. Like I love the support. We obviously appreciate the support.
If you want to support, you know.
Yeah, some people are just like, here's $20, and I'm like, okay, but like I also want you to get your side of it. I mean, I know that we put out this content and you guys love it, but you know, we have our end of the bargain too to uphold.
You want to know what my favorite episode that we've ever done is? I don't remember the name of the episode, but it's just an episode with me and Fraser talking shit, and we end up talking about like that show where like people
reality, like 90 Day Fiance. It is
90 Day Fiance. I was crying in that episode.
I forget.
The episode's not about 90 Day Fiance, but that gets mentioned amongst many other things, and I was crying.
Is that the "Don't Be a Menace" with the Glizzies?
That might be the Glizzy episode, or it might be the Whiteout. There's also the Black Borrow. All three of those episodes. Don't Be a Menace while eating Glizzies at the movies. The Whiteout and the Black Borrow. Those are some of the funniest episodes because they don't have a specific direction. They're just kind of like rants, but they go into such a wild place that honestly, I'll never forget. I had tears in my eyes crying about 90 Day Fiance. So
you know
funny.
what? I take it back. Those three are like top tier. Those are my number
so
ones.
good. If you haven't listened to Don't Be a Menace While Eating Glizzies at the Movies, please listen to it. It is that episode. I just looked at the description, and the description of this episode just says this one gets crazier the longer it goes on. And I remember it just escalating the whole episode. Like it just kept getting crazier. But yes.
Which one was the one where we talked about our cop duck starter Pokemon?
Yeah.
That's the that was one of the Pokemon speculation.
Yeah,
ones.
I forget exactly which one has it because it may be a Nintendo Direct or something. But there was an episode where we talked about the new Pokemon, and we got to see the starters. And the duck looks to me like he's a fucking cop. He looks like he's a cop.
I was saying the fucking cat is going to evolve into a tennis player.
Yes, which is actually happening.
Saying, I'm tired of Pokemon having jobs. I just want Pokemon to be fucking animals again. I don't want them to be wrestlers and soccer players.
Yeah.
Like, why is Cinderace a soccer player?
I
just want the Pokemon to be fucking
They've
animals.
had occupations for a very long time now, and I don't know what that trend is about, but I would like it to go back.
Now the legends are motorcycles.
Yeah, like what's that about? And I heard you start off with them. Is that true?
Yeah, so I don't fully understand how it's going to work yet, but based on the trailer that I saw, you get I think the professor or whatever literally gives you the legend at the start of the game, and you traverse the world.
The open world.
It's a fully open world game. You traverse the world with that legend. As far as I understand, you won't be able to use it in battle. You'll probably unlock being able to use it in battle later or something. Yeah. But I think it's basically your bike / mountain climbing. Like I think like the legend's going to be your HMs.
Interesting.
You just like get them. Yeah, I'm interested in how it's going to go. That game, by the way, I've said on previous episodes that I think Sword and Shield is like probably one of the worst Pokemon games. I think Diamond and Pearl remakes are really bad as well, whereas Diamond and Pearl are amazing. That said, Scarlet and Violet looks really good. There's still problems graphically that like in Pokemon, they had better animations in Pokemon Stadium on the 64 than they do right now.
What?
Like that is, I swear to God, the Pokemon Stadium animations are good.
Yeah, I mean, we had an episode where we talked about Pokemon Stadium actually, and
yeah.
I personally loved Pokemon Stadium as a kid, but I was thinking that it only was that good to me in hindsight because of the nostalgia. But you're saying that it still holds up compared to the graphics now, basically.
Yeah, like in Pokemon Stadium, I think like for example, like if Snorlax does Mega Kick, he literally gets up and he like does a little run. And he does like a drop kick. Like Snorlax jumps in the air and does a drop kick. And in the new Pokemon games, like in Sword and Shield or whatever, like when they do a kick move, they just kind of like wiggle their body a little bit, and then like there's a hit effect.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's very lazy animations.
It's just
to call it blunt.
Yeah, but that aside, I'm very impressed with the way the game looks like it's going to be in general. Fully open world. You can do the gyms in any order. They said that there's 3 different storylines you can experience. You can play the game online with your friends pretty much from the start of the game. You guys can run around the world together. So I'm actually pretty impressed. I'm looking forward to giving it a try. I think it'll be a lot better than Sword and Shield. And if it sucks, you guys will be the first to know. I'll let you.
Yeah, Kenny will let you know.
I mean, I'll be right there with you. We just put down our $5 deposit.
When's this game coming out?
Sunday.
When is that?
November. Comes out in November.
Oh my God. Yeah. So much is happening so fast.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Advanced Wars on the Switch.
That got delayed so many times.
It got delayed again? If
you guys don't know this, that was supposed to come out, I think, at the top of the year. It ended up getting delayed because of the war in Ukraine. Advanced Wars is a war game, but it's like a child friendly war game. If that makes sense.
I just googled it because I didn't know what it was. Although I remember it being on one of the Nintendo Directs, but I don't remember exactly what I never played it before. But I'm looking at it now.
It's a really colorful kiddie game, but it is a war game. It got delayed because of the war in Ukraine because I think the official statement was like they didn't want to make light of the events happening in the world right now. So anyway, it got delayed and it was supposed to come out like in the beginning of the year and it's still not out.
Well, I just want to say, Quest, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so I learned off of another podcast, supposedly the Advanced Wars games are based off of European conflicts.
Like actual European conflicts?
I guess. Okay. And so like that's why they're like, we're not gonna release this right now.
Yeah,
We're
timing.
gonna, yeah,
Well, interestingly, one of the main villains, and I say this in quotes because the game's very like campy. But
yeah,
the main villain that the game starts off with is like an analog of Russia. They're called like Blue Moon or whatever, and
yeah, and
the main like
he's
boss name's Olaf, and he's very clearly Russian. Like when you look
Yes.
at him, so and he
Yeah.
tries to invade a country, and so I understand why they wanted to delay it, but
I love it.
Oh my God.
I
So,
love those games.
yeah, I mean,
those
clearly,
games are amazing though. They're really good games. Yeah.
yeah, this game is definitely loved by a lot of people. I've never played it, but I also don't play mini strategy RPG or anything that looks like a board setup because it looks like it has
Yeah.
I don't know,
Like
20
Fire
by
Emblem,
50.
FF Tactics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've only played a few of those in my life. And it's not that I don't like this guy. It's not that I don't like them. It's just that I like other games more and my time is so limited. And
Yeah.
that's why I said so much is happening so fast a little while ago, because while this Pokemon game is coming out in November, you also have God of War's follow-up is coming out in November, supposedly.
Oh
I
my
still haven't
God.
finished the first one.
Me either. And so and the only reason I didn't finish it because I was playing it every day, nonstop, like crazy. I got sick in October, if you guys recall, and
Yeah.
that completely halted me doing everything with my life. Period. Like I wasn't recording the podcast, I wasn't playing any games, I wasn't playing Yu-Gi-Oh. I just completely I was just dying. And once I got healthy again, I was just basically focused on hanging out with my friends because I just had a different perspective on life. And I wasn't gaming at all. Also, Monster Hunter wasn't out at the time because I would have gamed regardless. I'd have been like, fuck you guys. You'll see me in the afterlife. But God of War Ragnarok is coming out in November. And that game, the first one, the 2018 PS4 version or whatever you want to call it, was one of the best games I've ever played. And I'm not even done yet. Like I'm probably 40%, maybe 50% through it, but it is so fun. So now that I have a streaming setup, I might actually, when I continue the story, just stream it while I play it. It's really fun.
Yeah, there's just a lot. Like I was streaming the other day, I was streaming Xenoblade 3, and that came out. I'm still trying to play Sunbreak because Sunbreak had a title update, which
Yes.
it's crazy because the title update technically has less in the game than Sunbreak, but it feels like there's so much more to do.
Bro, it is so dense how much there is to do now in Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
I'm realizing it. So when we did it might have been our last podcast episode, but you were talking to me about Monster Hunter before we started recording. And I didn't have much to say about it because I hadn't really completely wrapped my head around the depths of the entire update. Like it hadn't really hit me until very recently, honestly, a couple days ago, how large the update actually is, even though it's deceiving in the beginning because you fight 4 monsters, you're like, okay, I beat all 4. Now what?
Yeah.
But
and you feel like, oh, like I fought the new content in the update, but then it's kind of hidden what the actual content is.
Yeah, the anomaly stuff is outrageous. And Quest, I think you were watching me stream the other day, or like
I was watching you get bullied by a monster for
Astalos.
30 minutes.
Astalos had my fucking number.
It was bad.
It was real bad. I was like, yo, what the fuck? I realized I couldn't get away from his attacks. He also has terrible hit zone values with the gun. The gun does not have any place. Actually, let me rephrase that. He actually doesn't have good hit zone values for any weapon. It doesn't matter what you're using. His hit zones, like hitting the monster, it's bad. He's just and he doesn't have any elemental weakness. He's just an all-around asshole.
He's an absolute ass. Dude, I was playing the other day. I did like a join request that's random people can join online. It was fucking an Afflicted Rathalos and a Malzeno. And I'm doing the hunt. Somebody joins, dies twice, and then leaves. And I was like, okay, cool. Cool. So I'll just do the rest of this hunt and, hope for the best. And then luckily 2 other people joined and they were just really good and they didn't die. But I typed in, I brought up I've never typed to anybody on this game. I literally typed in someone joined, died twice, and left. No feints left.
Wow, that's insane. Yeah, there's been a lot.
That is rude.
That is rude. It is so fucking rude. If you die once, I think you need to really tighten up, especially if you are joining a mission. But, we actually plan to have an entire Monster Hunter episode as a follow-up to the first one we did on Sunbreak because, again, Title 1 update was just massive, honestly, and I like so much of it. And there are things that I don't like, obviously, as well. Nothing is perfect, but I actually really like it, and I want to do an entire episode with Kenny on just like the Monster Hunter topic by itself. But I know we did want to wrap back around because we got really sidetracked for 20 minutes here.
Oh, we did.
We never got Power
What were we
Rangers.
talking about?
We were going to
Oh,
talk about
shit.
Power Rangers, and somehow, some way, we ended up talking about Pokemon, Advance Wars, God of War, and now Monster Hunter. So let's try to get back to Power Rangers.
But that reminded me, because I was in the middle of saying, it's funny how conversations work. I was in the middle of saying in our sidetrack that I got sidetracked. I was streaming the other day, and I haven't had time to stream, and I'm playing games, and then somebody was like, hey, are you going to play this game? And I was like, I can't remember what game they said. It's like, I don't know, I really don't have time because of all these other things. And then somebody showed me a trailer, they're like, are you going to play the new Kirby game? And I was like,
yeah, I forgot.
I want to get around to playing that. And they're like, no. The one that's about to come out. I was like, what the fuck do you mean the one that's about to come out?
Wait,
there's another Kirby game coming out. It's a party game though. It's like a Mario Party, like Fall Guys, Kirby. But I watched the trailer on stream. It looks insanely fun. I like party games. I don't play them that much, but I play them a couple times a year when I get together with people, and they are super fun.
We have an entire episode based on that. It's called George R. R. Martin's Mario Party.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. It's a good ass time.
Okay, so Chris, what is your favorite Power Rangers franchise? Like, which one is the GOAT for you? I mean, I guess Mighty Morphin for everyone probably, but like outside of, if I exclude Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is the first 3 seasons, what is your favorite Power Rangers franchise? If I exclude Mighty Morphin, because it would be easy to just go, well, obviously Mighty Morphin, it has the White Ranger, it has the Green Ranger, and those are Tommy and Jason.
I want to say In Space or Lost Galaxy.
I was going to say In Space immediately, because is that the one that has the Gold Ranger?
Zeo has the Gold Ranger.
Oh, so for me it's Zeo. Yeah, whatever one has the Gold Ranger, because I actually had that costume.
I love Zeo. It's a follow-up to Mighty Morphin, and they just took, everybody knows the iconic Mighty Morphin, like, go Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that classic theme, right?
Yeah.
So when they made Zeo, which was the follow-up to Mighty Morphin, they just used the same theme, but they just so they go like, go Power Rangers. Instead of saying you Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, they go, you Zeo Power Rangers. Like, they just
dubbed it over.
Zeo. Yeah, it's fucking great. I love that shit.
It's funny. So this is episode 93, and Power Rangers first aired in 93.
Oh wow!
But
wow,
Power Rangers first episode was like a week before I was born.
Oh damn!
Yeah. So it was always like gonna happen that like Power Rangers was gonna be a thing for me. And one of my like first conscious memories of watching Power Rangers wasn't Zeo or Mighty Morphin, it was Turbo.
Yes, I remember Turbo very vividly, because that had the little boy that became a grown ass man when he transformed.
Yeah, and if you
the Blue Ranger.
If you've seen that dude lately, that dude is jacked.
Somebody posted something on Twitter or Instagram recently with him, and it said "feel old yet," and it was him, but the guy was too hot, and I didn't want to believe that it was really him, so I just kind of ignored it, as I do with a lot of things on the internet.
He got in shape for like this exhibition match, like exhibition MMA match with the guy who played young Rocky when they turned into little kids during Mighty Morphin.
Okay.
Like during the Alien Ranger saga.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I forgot about the part where they all become young.
Yeah, so the kid who played the Blue Ranger fought the kid who played the Red Ranger.
That's a rant.
Yeah, it was wild. Like
absolute rant.
So what is it about Rangers in space that makes it like goated for you?
It has one of the darkest storylines of them all, while also like tying up the Zordon era, because at the end of In Space, the Red Ranger kills Zordon.
Jesus.
Because Zordon is like, hey, you've got to. They've got me captured, whatever. If you kill me, like if you destroy my containment chamber, everything will be fine, essentially. And so he does it, and it unleashes this wave of good energy across the galaxy, turns a bunch of villains into stone or dust.
Oh wow!
Changes Rita and Zed back into good people. Diva Talks back into a good person. Like it just does it's the top deck like snatch steal for game.
Yeah, I guess I never saw. I mean, I definitely saw this season, but I don't remember seeing. I guess the part where they kill Zordon. That would have been crazy for me because all I remember seeing
was
Zordon
wild.
get bodied was Ivan Ooze coming into his lab in the movie and just going fucking
Yeah.
ham.
Where's my autograph book?
Yo, that movie is fucking great.
Oh, it's
That movie
amazing.
is so good.
I haven't seen it in 20 years, but I actually want to watch it again because even though I know, when nostalgia is the reason why it was really amazing to me, but I still think I would enjoy it even now, just like as a good laugh and just a good feeling.
The movie comes on pretty dope. Like Tommy snowboards out the sky.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
they go skydiving and he's like on a snowboard. It's like you can't really open a movie much
The
better than
production of that
Like,
movie did seem really high when I think about it. Like that,
Yeah.
the way it opened with them skydiving is a little absurd now that I'm old enough to understand skydiving, right? Like that shit is not
okay.
only expensive but scary as hell. Go ahead.
I mean, they didn't actually skydive.
Yes,
Like you
of
can
course.
see the green screen, but like the fact that they even did that with stunt doubles
Yeah.
for this movie was wild.
Okay, well, so I'm gonna just
like-
give you full disclosure here, Quest. I didn't know that there was green screen because I was a kid, but now I guess if
None
I
of
went
us
back
did.
if I went back
Yeah.
and watched it, I would realize immediately that it's green screen. But I actually had no idea. So in my brain, that movie's budget was really high because they actually had skydivers.
even
They
that
did.
aside. Yeah,
well,
go
like
ahead.
they did for the stunt doubles.
Yeah,
But like when they're talking to each other and like it's close-ups of them, like and you can see their faces, green screen.
okay.
Yeah,
I watched it recently with my wife because she's never seen it. And I was
Obviously.
like, I was like, oh, we're fixing this right now. So
Yeah.
we watched it and I'm just watching it. I'm like, oh yeah, all the things I missed as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that it was green screen. That scene is still kind of in my head as they were literally skydiving, the Rangers. They land and all these people are around and stuff, and it's like a big moment. Ivan Ooze walking into the Zordon's chamber and just, that that is an iconic scene. There's something about that, and like Alpha being there and he electrocutes Alpha, if I'm not mistaken. There's
Yes.
something about the evil and like the malevolence of Ivan Ooze when he comes in there, because bad shit's about to happen.
Yep.
Like
And just
he's
the-
gonna do something real bad. Go ahead.
The way he shit talks them when he first shows up, like, oh, where's my autograph? Like, that is an iconic line. She didn't think that was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it doesn't get any colder than this until Madara shows up and drops a meteor on.
Yes, which is
I don't know.
20 something years later.
Yeah, like, it just does not get any colder than that. This man mocked them
Hold
to
up.
their faces.
Wait. Before Ivan Ooze, there was the Green Ranger, and he was cool as fuck.
well, yeah.
Oh, that's-
He showed up in their Megazord and kicked them the fuck
Yo,
out.
that is still okay. Outside
That
of
is-
Madara, that is still the coldest shit you will ever see in any show ever. Him going in their Zord and kicking them out.
Like, the balls on that man to just be like, goodbye,
Yeah.
out the club, go.
And you just see them one by one flying out. It's so good.
Insane.
Yeah, Power Rangers was a good time though. I had a lot of the merchandise as a kid. Did you have any of the Zords that you could build and detached, separate them out?
Not until Lost Galaxy,
Mhm.
because I remember they used to be so expensive.
Yeah.
But like, I had a bunch of the action figures. I had the ones where like you press their belt buckle and their heads flip.
Yep,
Yep.
I had those. I think we all definitely had
Like-
the belt buckle flip the head and they get
Yeah.
the mask on. I had a Morpher.
I had a cheapy Morpher probably until I had the Zeo Morpher.
Oh, is that
I
the
still
one that
have
looks
that
like a little?
somewhere.
It's like a little thing on you. I don't know. It kind of looks like a watch. Am I thinking about that right?
It's like two separate pieces. Like one, it like
Oh.
pops up and it's like this little red crystal looking thing.
Okay,
And then
yeah,
the
I did
other
not have
one-
that one then.
It
It
definitely
was
has the OG Morpher, and it had like these little gold coins that you could put.
Yeah.
Yep, I had the gold coins.
have
Tyrannosaurus,
some
pterodactyl,
coins. Yes.
saber-toothed tiger, like all of that. I was big into that world.
the way he just drops his voice just to scream Tyrannosaurus, that was perfect timing.
I think
Tyrannosaurus. I love the way Jason says Tyrannosaurus. I will never get old for like that. Is just he's the shit.
Did you guys hear recently that I think him and one of the other Rangers was recently under investigation, like criminal investigation for PPP fraud?
Yeah, it was just him. He was indicted on that. they whoever was in charge of his like Facebook or Instagram was like, Jason, Austin has no connections with this person. He's never
Yeah.
even spoken to them. And I'm just like, hey man, proclaim your innocence until you're found guilty. But
Yeah, and also I remember in our Power Rangers episode we brought up some of the sadder details about being a Power Ranger in the
yeah,
90s. They didn't get really paid anything for that show.
no, they didn't.
That's
So-
why Jason, Trini, and Zach ended up leaving the show because the show became a gigantic mega hit, was making millions of dollars,
Yeah.
and they were like getting paid nothing.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, like, we should revisit our contract. They're like, no.
Yeah, 'cause
No
those,
union.
those were some of the best toys back in the day. This is when Toys R Us was huge. Like,
God, yes.
Toys R Us was so big back then when I was a kid, and Power Rangers toys used to sell out. I remember going for Christmas, and my birthday is Thanksgiving. So basically, my birthday is the same time when people go Christmas shopping. Like a lot of people do their Christmas shopping a month early because Black Friday is the week of my birthday always, right? So like a lot of the stuff that I will want would be sold out, or I would get like the last one of something Power Rangers when I was a kid. And I always used to remember that. So they were making bank on all of Power Rangers merch. Like you said, those Zords and shit were $70 back in the 90s.
Yeah.
They were expensive as hell.
At some point, they dropped to like $40 for
Yep,
them. And I
remember
was
that.
like,
I got one for $44.
that's still expensive.
Yes. For a Zord, those things are pretty small. Like when I was a kid,
Yeah.
they were massive to me, but now I'm
Huge.
Yeah, now I'm like, yeah, they were really, really small. I still want Pyramidas back. I want the scepter that the Gold Ranger had. I want obviously the flute saber that the Green Ranger had.
Yeah.
I want the talking little, I don't even know what to call him, a saber tooth dude that the White Ranger had.
I forget
Saba.
his name. I think it was Saba, yeah.
Yeah.
The White Tiger and
Mhm.
like the White Tiger dagger.
Yeah, that shit was fire.
Shamseer.
So many good memories from Power Rangers. Let me see. What else do I remember from that? The movies were, I mean, when I was a kid, again, they were amazing to me. Like I really enjoy them. Turbo had a movie too, right?
Yes.
I saw that movie probably. I feel like I saw that movie 20 times, even though I remember saying to myself, I don't really like this one that much, but I kept watching it when it would come on. So that's like a weird thing about it. Like I liked, you know what it really was? I'm one of those people that sometimes when I like something a lot and a newer thing comes out, I just don't like it because it's just like, this isn't the original. This isn't the one that I fell in love with. But then that doesn't always happen, because if you think about how much I love Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably my favorite Final Fantasy game ever. That and 10, and those came out way after I played 7, 8, and 9. So it's
they're also different from each other.
They're also different, but the Power Rangers are relatively different too. Like the cast is always different. The villain is usually different. Yeah, and there's like different tones. Like I like how Turbo focused around cars. Like that was, for people who are into cars. I never was, but for people who are into cars, I'm sure Turbo was crack. I just never grew up liking cars. Like when my dad would get me race cars and stuff, it just didn't speak to me.
When I got my truck, like I looked up the Turbo theme song. I couldn't find it on Spotify, but I found it on YouTube, and I was blaring that shit. And I was like, all right, let's see how much I can push this truck. I was going like 100 something down the highway, like an idiot, and I was like, I feel like a boss. Allegedly.
That's so dope.
Yeah, no, I really did like Power Rangers for a while, and then I stopped. So I'm looking at this page. It's their wiki, and it has every Power Rangers that ever came out. So it's like Mighty Morphin, Alien, Zeo, Turbos, Rangers in Space, Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, Wild Force, Ninja Storm, and I think this is where I start to kind of fall off. Like I think Time Force is basically the end of my journey, and then all of the ones after this, and it goes all the way to like 28 seasons, 28 different franchises. The newest one being Dino Fury. I haven't seen I could say honestly, I haven't seen the last 10 plus franchises of Power Rangers.
I followed it up through In Space, and then a little bit of Lost Galaxy. But Lost Galaxy is when they truly completely changed the cast. And by then, I guess I was getting a little older, and I just wasn't as interested.
Yeah.
So I stopped following there. However, like years later, I have a younger brother. I end up showing him Power Rangers, and I end up watching a lot of those later Power Ranger seasons because I watched them with him.
Yeah.
So I ended up seeing a lot of them, not in order, but just like here and there randomly.
The last one I saw, and this is what made me put down watching it as a franchise, was some of Megaforce.
Yep, season 21.
And well, it was season 19
Okay.
alleged.
It says
They
yeah.
started splitting them into like half seasons for I don't know. So according to the wiki I'm looking at, it says Megaforce is 19, but Super Samurai was 18B. Whatever.
Rants.
I am not about to do algebra to figure out what season I'm on.
Can I just say, I hate this new thing, and it's been going on for quite a while sometime, but I'm just calling it new anyway. Breaking things up into 2 seasons or 3 seasons. We are experiencing this with Attack on Titan right now. It's now going on the 3rd final season. I remember Harry Potter split up the last book into 2 movies, which in those cases, I'm not mad at it because books often get destroyed in their adaptations because they're not long enough. So I don't mind adaptations being split up, but just, I don't like it when they just call it part 1, part 2. It kind of like, especially, I guess final season, part 1, part 2, part 3 really bothers me. Like that, the name. Yeah, the name of it is so annoying. But then at the same time, I like Final Fantasy fucking 15. So like, I'm a hypocrite.
But that's different because like it's a whole other story.
It is a whole other. You know what? You're right. Thank you for defending me, Quest.
I got you. But like the way they did this was just dumb. So like Super Mega Force, I watched a bit of it.
Yeah.
But I was like, yo, where's this insane fight scene where they bring in every ranger from ever before? And I just stopped watching.
Yeah.
Eventually, Netflix gets a hold of like that and makes it a special. They hyped the fuck out of this. I was following a bunch of them on Instagram. I was trying to keep up with like all the news, and they were like, "Oh, it's going to be great! It's going to be great!" So many commercials for months and months, and then you see them for like, I don't know. I'll be generous and say 5 minutes. All of them together get 5 minutes total screen time.
Yeah, that sucks.
All the past rangers, and I was like,
to be like a big war or something, right? And
yeah,
it's nothing.
Like you see everybody, and like you see obviously Tom without his helmet, and some of the other past rangers without their helmets, and you see them throughout the episode a little bit, like they're helping the city and all the citizens, and like again, 5 minutes overall. Like,
yeah.
That should have had an hour-long episode. It kind of. So what you're basically saying is, it was like Avengers Endgame where you see all the heroes, but it just didn't last long enough for you to really get a payoff.
Yes, and it was bad. I was like,
yeah, that is pretty
like
bad.
I get it. It's Power Rangers. It's Nickelodeon, but it's also Saban. Like, bro, you're the reason we have this. Why didn't you do better? Do better by your fans. Do better by yourself and your name. Nickelodeon has a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, could have done this better.
Nickelodeon. Speaking of them, do you know what's going on with them right now with all the sexual child stuff that they had coming out? There's like, so someone spoke out. I forget.
Talk about
Jeanette McCurdy.
She started it, right? And then
yeah,
it's starting to. So now it's gotten over to Ariana Grande because there's videos of the creator of Nickelodeon. He used to have her do stuff like put feet in her mouth and hang upside down and pour water all over herself and say I'm wet, and like all of these other really crazy things that they're realizing now that obviously he was sexualizing these girls. It's bad.
What is his name?
It's Dan Schneider. He's not the creator of Nickelodeon, but he was one of the top showrunners. Like he put forth a lot of shows on the platform. Okay. And there's actually a couple years ago now, maybe 2 years ago, I remember watching like a YouTube documentary on Dan Schneider. It was basically like a guy going into all of that. Basically, it's heavily rumored. None of this is confirmed, but it's heavily rumored that he got Jamie Lynn Spears pregnant. That's Britney Spears' younger sister.
Wow.
She was on this show, Zoe 101, and if I remember correctly, that show got canceled because she got pregnant.
Yes.
And she was like a kid. She was like maybe 16 or 15 or something.
Yeah,
definitely underage.
I don't remember all the details, but there's like a couple YouTube videos on it of like a lot of things pointing toward it possibly being this guy Dan Schneider, allegedly. But it's one of those things where it wasn't proven. But then again, R. Kelly did Age Ain't Nothing But a Number with Aaliyah, and everybody was like, that's fine.
Yeah, the 90s was a wild fucking time. The 90s was insanely wild.
Here we are.
Yeah, now everyone's going through, so they're looking at all this stuff with Ariana Grande and the other lady that you guys mentioned. And it's crazy. Nickelodeon, which is I always say that this podcast has something I like to refer to as divine timing, because we just did an episode on Nickelodeon. Like, we literally just did a Nickelodeon episode, and we were giving Nickelodeon its flowers for being great. And obviously it is still great because of the content that it put out. But then there's always that shit where you peel back the layers and you find something mold underneath. And now I'm sad that they're about to probably ruin Nickelodeon's legacy. Not necessarily the shows that came out of it, but just it's going to be tainted in the eyes of parents, right? Because any parent is going to, I won't even say that they're going to overreact. If I had a kid and I knew that the content on Nickelodeon had like child predatory stuff going on, it would make me feel uncomfortable too. So I totally get if a parent's like, I really don't want you watching that channel. I don't know what I have to be there. Like, I don't know what kind of shows you're watching. Because again, when I was a kid, I could watch Ariana Grande hang upside down and pour water on herself saying she's wet. It would be nothing to me because I'm just a kid. But like, obviously there's undertones to it and all kinds of other heinous shit going on with that. It's bad.
I need to see this in context. I need to know how bad this is.
I'm sure it's actually real bad. I actually saw the picture of her with the foot in her mouth. I saw that one. That was the image they used on Instagram when I was scrolling and came across all of this stuff was Ariana Grande with a foot in her mouth, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
So I looked him up. As it turns out, so as far as I'm aware, he no longer works for Nickelodeon because it's apparently always been rumored that he's one of those.
Yeah.
And so
they just parted ways with him. Like, all right, we're just gonna disconnect
recently.
From you. Recently?
Recently, probably within the last 4 or 5 years, they were like, yeah, we're kind of done with you. 2018, exit from Nickelodeon in 2018.
Yeah, no, that's pretty recent.
So he helped to create / produce all that and its film Good Burger, Kenan and Kel, The Amanda Show, Zoe 101, iCarly, and something called Henry Danger. And it's also like the Sam and Cat thing that Jeanette McCurdy and Ariana Grande co-starred together in.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there, you wonder, how could they have not known, right?
Yeah, that's always the thing, but I think they call it Holly Weird.
Let me introduce this guy named Harvey Weinstein.
Okay? Yeah. You know what? You got me. You got me.
He made a lot of movies.
Yes, a lot of great ones too. And that's the crazy thing. The shows you just named, Quest, were like all of the ones that we named in our episode for Nickelodeon. Yeah. They're the big shows. They're the best shows. And who knows what happened?
What Henry Danger is, but
Henry Danger sounds wild, by the way. When you said that one, I was thinking Stranger Danger.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. But I mean, okay, we can't like just ignore Danny Phantom though. Like that show is probably the best thing Nickelodeon's ever.
Oh, you love it. Aired. You're younger than us, though. I think so. Just a little bit. You probably had more involvement with Danny Phantom than me and Kenny did. I didn't get to see much of Danny. Like I've seen it obviously, but I haven't seen. I can't say I've watched all of Danny Phantom. I don't remember too much about it as far as specifics, because it's a little past my time. Like by the time Danny Phantom was really on TV, I feel like I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and that just took over my life. I'm not even sure when I'm trying to think. When did Danny Phantom actually start? Because let me Google it.
I think I was like in 6th grade, maybe 5th grade. Like, I don't know. One of the
it says
so 04. Yeah. And this is gonna age me a bit, but in 04 I was 14.
I was about to be 11.
So yeah, you were 3 years younger than me. So I feel like in 04, I definitely was playing Yu-Gi-Oh at this point. And I was like really, really big into just loving Yu-Gi-Oh for what it was, even though I was terrible at the game, of course. Like I was so young and dumb.
We all were.
Yeah, I mean, who didn't start off that way? There's only a few people who just naturally have a crazy amount of talent from the gate. But in the beginning, I was just one of those people who liked the game because of the cartoon, or the anime rather. And so while Danny Phantom was airing, I was probably busy watching Pokemon, Shaman King. Like that was one of my favorite shows that came on Saturday morning cartoons.
Shaman King.
Yeah, I heard they got rebooted too.
It did on Netflix. I tried to watch it. I fell asleep, but that's my bad because I was laying down. Big mistake.
Did it seem okay? Because I'm curious.
It seemed pretty intense, like from the jump.
Okay, I used to love Shaman King as a kid.
Yeah.
There's randomly a bunch of Netflix is wild. Like I still haven't watched that Shaman King. I haven't watched the Resident Evil yet.
Me either. We're supposed to do a podcast episode on that too. Spoiler alert.
I need to watch it. I did watch Uncharted. That's randomly on Netflix.
My wife watched that yesterday, day
Which one?
before.
Uncharted?
Uncharted.
Yeah, we're going to do an episode on that as well, the Uncharted movie. Is that the one with Tom Holland?
Yeah, that's why she was watching it.
Of course. That's why everyone will watch it. I'm not some crazy like Tom Holland is the sexiest man alive kind of person, but I know people go crazy about him, and I know he's with Zendaya. He's just very regular to me, but I do like him as Spider-Man. Like I like him as Spider-Man a lot, but when I saw him playing the main character of Uncharted, mind you, that preview aired while I was watching No Way Home. So like the trailers before No Way Home included the trailer for Uncharted, and it was so weird that I don't know, that just seemed weird to me. Like I'm about to watch this guy be Spider-Man, and you're showing him be a lesser hero. Like, it's weird.
It's also just weird because, and I still feel this way after watching. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun, but I still feel as though Tom Holland isn't the greatest pick to play Nathan Drake. Like
I agree with you.
I don't know how old Tom Holland is, but he at least looks too young.
He does.
Like that.
He's not tall enough. And no offense, but he's just not tall enough to play the main character of Uncharted. Like I've played Uncharted because it came with my PS4 years ago, and I only played it for a little bit because it's not my kind of game. But the main character of that game and Tom Holland, they look nothing alike. And obviously, the character doesn't need to look exactly like the one from the game. You'll never get another Angelina Jolie and Tomb Raider because that shit was kind of uncanny. She looked exactly like Lara Croft to me. Like it was just like, that is Lara Croft. But it doesn't need to look exactly like it, but I think that the stature should at least be so like, imagine a fat black guy just being the main character of Uncharted in the movie. It's like some fat black guy is just the main character of Uncharted, and you're like, this is totally
they get Bruce.
Like when they get fucking Kevin Hart, it's like a short guy, like a short black guy who's like super in shape, but he's also just 5'3". Like he's just playing the main character of Uncharted. Like sure, you can do that, but it's like this is so far off from the mark that I'm not exactly sure how we ended up here. That's how I feel about Tom Holland being the main character of Uncharted. But I'm gonna watch it. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm just gonna watch it and try to enjoy it for what it is. I'm not a big fan of the movie. Not a big fan of movies. I'm not a big fan of the video game, but that's because I really didn't play it like that. Is I have no actual gripes against it. Like there's a ton of those video games, Last of Us and all that stuff that people love, but I just haven't gotten into myself.
Yeah.
The last action sequence in the movie, because that's kind of where I walked in. Mm-hmm. That seemed cool. It looked cool.
Yeah, it was a fun movie. I enjoyed. I'm gonna save my opinions on it till we do an episode.
Oh, you saw it already, Kenny?
Yeah, I watched it with Jaden.
Okay. So wait, I have a question. Did this movie, it came out in theaters though, right?
It did come out in theaters. I don't know when but it was just like on Netflix one day. I don't know how it happened.
Well, that's good for me because I was never going to go see it in theaters, even though I do have the AMC A-list thing where I can like see 3 movies a week. Oh, speaking of seeing, bad movies, and this is not a shot at Uncharted, but I'm going to go see a really bad movie, or I think it's going to be really bad this Saturday. I'm seeing that movie with Idris Elba fighting lions. I forget what.
What?
The Beast.
Wait. Back the fuck up. Excuse me?
There's a movie coming out.
What the fuck are we talking about?
There's a movie coming out. Technically tomorrow night. It comes out on Thursday night, like every other movie. But it's some movie with Idris Elba, and he's fighting a lion. Like he is fully, him and a lion are going at it. And the whole movie's premise is like Idris Elba gets trapped in a jungle with his 2 daughters, and this lion is stalking them and trying to kill them, obviously. And it looks terrible. It looks absolutely fucking awful. But I have to know how this ends because you can't just have Idris Elba fighting lions out here.
You can. Doesn't mean it's going to be good.
Apparently you can. What's it called?
Where is it? I think it's called Beast or The Beast.
I love how disconnected I am from some shit. Like
it is called Beast, yeah.
It's not on Wikipedia anymore. What happened?
Yo, it has an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Now I will say this: it's not officially out yet, so I expect that score to drop massively. Because if it doesn't, if this movie has an 80%, even after people really get to watch it, I'm gonna be blown away because the concept of it is so out there. But yes, we will see.
I'm not a big movie person. My ADHD is terrible, so like sitting through movies is real rough for me.
Yeah.
So if other people enjoy this movie, more power to them. If it shows up on my TV because my wife or my sister-in-law is watching it, and I sit down and I just happen to make it through, fine. We'll see what happens.
So I didn't know that Dragon Ball Superheroes coming out this week.
But it comes out
Oh.
this week.
bro.
Yes.
It's coming out apparently. Yeah, it says movie times tomorrow, Thursday, August 18th, Walnut Street. For we and Kenny live in Philadelphia. We're like in the Philadelphia area, and yeah, it's coming out. And obviously, Kenny and I need to do a fucking podcast episode on this because it's Dragon Ball.
I'm hoping it's in theaters for more than a weekend because obviously I can't see it on the weekend because I'm going to be working.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that it's still in theaters. Like
so,
Tuesday.
I'm looking at it from the 18th to the 25th. There's still showtimes.
Okay.
So there's showtimes up to the 25th, and it might go further than that, but it's just giving me 8 days right now. But I have to see this.
I want to definitely. I knew it was coming out soon. I didn't realize it was coming out tomorrow.
I had no idea. Like I only happened to go on Rotten Tomatoes and look up that rant of Idris Elba fighting lions, and here we are.
Yeah, I definitely have to see that. I want to take Jaden to see it. I've seen all of the new DBZ movies in theaters, like Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, and the Broly movie.
Yeah,
I've seen them all in theaters, and they're fucking great. I think the Broly one, the animation on the Broly movie is fucking insane. The new Broly movie, if you haven't seen it, it is godlike.
Wait, it's the one I saw it, right? It's the one where I don't
know. I don't know.
You're not talking about the original Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. You're talking about something else?
No, the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, yeah.
Yeah, the one where like Broly and his dad and Frieza shoots him in the chest and kills him, and he's like, "Oh my god, your dad!" and that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I because you scared me for a second. I thought I missed a Broly movie. I was like, "Wait, what the fuck?"
No, yeah, that movie. Because I would just want to clarify because there's the old Broly movies.
Yeah. Those don't count.
Yeah, I like them because like nostalgia, but they're not good movies.
Yeah,
the new Broly movie is legit good,
yes.
And the animation isn't the part where the part after Goku and Vegeta fuse and they become Gogeta, and there's a part where they're fighting, and Gogeta like goes in the air and he does like a fucking quintuple flip and fucking kicks him.
Yo, honestly, I enjoyed that whole movie. The animation, I actually just like the pacing of the story, like Broly's origin, how they changed it up a bit, him having a father that we actually get to see and all that stuff. I liked it. I genuinely liked it. I thought it was also funny. I still think about that part where Frieza kills his dad and it's just like, oh my god. And that part had me literally laughing in the movie theater. I also like the part where Frieza gets left with Broly. Like that shit was hilarious. So yeah, I'm gonna go see this one.
Goku and Vegeta are just out, and Frieza catches one.
For what was it, 30 minutes? How long did it take them to get back? It was a while.
Jesus Christ! They just left him that way.
They left him. They left this man with Broly while they went to go learn how to fuse.
You know what? Serves him right.
I mean, yes, he deserves it. He does deserve it. Okay, so I wanted to pivot a little bit over to One Piece because how can we not talk about One Piece, right? So I don't think I've seen the most recent chapter. It probably came out today or yesterday or something like that. But
we're on break this week until this upcoming Sunday.
Okay,
what chapter am I on? I'm like maybe 2 weeks behind, 3 weeks behind. I don't fucking know. You saw the new Admiral and all that stuff. That's where we're at, right? With the new Flower Admiral dude.
Yeah, have you seen the new Emperors?
Yeah, I think Kenny knows about the new Emperors.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't want to ruin it for nobody.
For everyone for One Piece. Spoilers.
Yeah, just to throw it out there. New Emperors. We got what? Buggy.
Whoa, bro.
Luffy.
We have Buggy D Clown, the inheritor of the Will of D,
not Buggy
the
D
next
Clown.
king of pirates.
I've been saying Buggy D Clown forever, yo. Buggy D Clown.
How sick would it be if his name was something like that, though? Like if he had the Will of D too, y'all would be sick.
Lose my shit. Oh my god.
I said so. They show Buggy, right, and they show like his poster, and it says like the Genius Jester, and then under him is like Crocodile and Mihawk, and it's like,
bro. So I saw that specifically that part. The Mihawk part and Crocodile part is what got me. I wasn't even the whole Buggy's Yonko thing. It didn't really sit that crazy with me at first. When I saw Mihawk and Crocodile under him, I was like, "There's no fucking world where this is okay. There's no world where those are his two. If that's his right hand and left hand, like that's not okay."
So, no, I've been saying for years now that because Buggy always finds his way into some shit. He fucking stumbled into being a Shichibukai. I've been saying for years when One Piece ends, like no one's going to even know Luffy's name. It's going to be like the story of the Usopp pirates and Buggy the clown and this war. It's going to be like this story of Usopp and Buggy at war or something.
You know
like,
what
it's
I just
gonna
thought about
be
though?
nonsense.
So we know that One Piece is officially ending now. I imagine within the next 10 years, One Piece will actually be over.
Don't
Crazy,
remind me.
crazy to think about, but I do think within 10 years or so, One Piece, yeah, I'll say 10 years. Within 10 years, One Piece will be over. And I'm happy that it's coming to an end in the sense that I like that the story is going to have an actual completion while the author is still alive, because I do have fears of something being Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to experience that again in my life with something that I love as much as I love One Piece. I love Game of Thrones on the exact same level that I love One Piece. That's how like my love for Game of Thrones, I bring it up every episode. My love for Game of Thrones is so intense. It's my favorite show that I've ever watched. And like what happened to it is such a travesty. And it's because the author's just really old and he can't complete his work, which, you know, that's just what happens. But I don't want something like that to happen with Oda if he continues to do One Piece for like the next 40 years, because he could go on for 40 more years, but he'd also be 80, 90 years old. And at that point, it's like it will deteriorate. It'll flip over to other writers. And yeah, I know that other people do help to write One Piece, but I'm not trying to hear all that. Like at the end of the day, I want Oda to be the one who gets the final say in when it ends.
Yeah, Oda. So he has editors.
Yes.
But he's the writer. Like
Yeah.
he has editors, like people that you know, but because of course everybody has editors.
Yeah, yes. There's no
Stephen
nothing
King
has ever
an
been
editor.
written without it being edited.
Yeah. Everybody has an editor. But like at the end of the day, it's still Stephen King's book, you know?
Yeah. So I don't want it to be misconstrued when I say I'm happy that it's ending, in a sense of like I'm glad it's going to come to an end just because I want it to be over. I'm happy that it's ending because Oda's still completely in his right state of mind, right? Like he's still pretty young overall and healthy and able to write at an insanely high level. But I was wondering how we would get a resolution to Zoro saying, "I'm never going to lose again," and Mihawk. And Buggy having Mihawk under him as his right or left, I don't know which hand he is, but as his right hand man or his left hand man or whatever, him having Mihawk is very intentional by Oda. Like that is not lost on me, because now Zoro has confirmed Conqueror's Haki. Zoro also has a sword that can cut a god. He has a sword that can cut hell. Like he's insane. So Zoro's now officially one of the strongest swordsmen in the entire franchise of One Piece. Like he's up there.
Yep.
He's in a conversation of most powerful swordsmen. Period.
He's a viable fight for Mihawk now. Like
yes, and that's where it's because he fought against Big Mom and Kaido, and he actually held his own. Like first of all, he damaged Kaido. Like it wasn't severe damage, but he damaged him.
He almost severely damaged him.
Yeah.
Here's something that's also really cool about One Piece is its power scaling isn't as linear as some other things. For example, for a long you have the Shichibukai, and then we knew there was a Yonko. And then just like the way things go, most people just assume that the Shichibukai, they're all strong, but none of them are as strong as any Yonko.
Yeah.
The way the story's progressing, like, how strong is Mihawk? Because the fact that he's coming after,
so
you know what I mean? Like,
so he's considered
Mihawk is wild.
Well, you know what's interesting? They use the bounty system as a way to kind of denote power level, like to some degree, right? Like that.
Yeah.
It is not blatantly a power scaling or anything like that, but it also is at the same time a guide. It's a reference. It is a point of reference for power scaling. For example, Kaido had the biggest bounty of any living person, which makes sense because he is probably the strongest person who was living before, you know, whatever happened to him at the end of Wano. Now, I think that Mihawk, because we weren't able to really get him being a pirate, right? He was a Shichibukai, so he was working for the world government. Now he's no longer working for them. They released all the Shichibukais. And so characters who we've never really got to see go all out, Mihawk, we've never got to see him go all out. We've only seen him do very little. And he's considered the strongest swordsman in the world. And we're watching what Zoro could do as not the strongest swordsman in the world. Do you get where I'm going with this?
Yeah. To put it, another thing is that him and Shanks are like rivals. Like Mihawk is one of Shanks's rivals, like in terms of swordsmanship. So it's like,
he was one of his rivals. Shanks got dropped like you side bitch when you find a new one because he lost that arm. Mihawk was like, I'm no longer interested. and just
Damn.
walked away, which I think was fucking wild considering we saw Shanks one-handed match Roger. It's old and ill,
Yeah.
but still, or not Roger,
Not Roger, Whitebeard.
Whitebeard,
Viper, yeah.
but still
And they
the
split the
strongest
heavens.
man in the world.
Yeah.
Split the heavens, and Mihawk was like, "I'm not interested in fighting a lesser version of you."
I like that though.
Think about that.
I like the idea of him not wanting to fight him when he's not at his best anymore. Like you're not in your prime. We've seen this in other anime too. That is a trope that's not used very often because it's you have to be a really good writer, I feel like, to even get your characters to a level where we care about a line like that. Like I don't want to fight you because you're not at your prime anymore. You're not at your best. Like you're off.
A perfect example is I love just like going back and watching stuff with Madara in it because damn,
it's
just
fucking Madara.
cold-blooded.
The episode where Madara just beats the balls off the whole Ninja Alliance is still one of the best episodes.
Top 5 episodes of the entire series for me.
Like,
dude, insane. But like when he's fighting the 5 Kage,
oh god,
and I think it was the Mizukage, she asks, "Why have you been holding back this whole time when you've had all this power?" And he just says, "Why would an adult need to go all out against children?"
Yeah, he literally says that.
Like he literally just says right there, I'm not fighting you. I'm playing with you.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Didn't Mihawk say something similar to Zoro when he pulled out a fucking
dog?
This is the smallest. This is the biggest weapon I have that I'm willing to fight you with.
The look on his face. He has such a trolly look on his face, and he pulls out this little dagger, and he's like, "Oh, this is the smallest blade I have." Like he is so disrespectful, and he says something along the lines of like a similar thing, like he says something similar to like, "Why would an adult?"
Something about a rabbit. I forget exactly how it goes, but something about.
I think he says like you wouldn't use a cannon against a rabbit or something.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
He says like some wild shit, like you wouldn't use a cannon to hunt a rabbit. Like, and he pulls out a fucking dagger.
It's wild.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Just the way he's like, "Dog, I don't have to fight you. I'll just play with you." Oh, I can't find the quote.
Yeah, I was looking for it as well. I like that his name is Dracule as well. Like, I think that the fact that he looks like a vampire and then his name has to be Dracule. Mihawk, I would like some backstory on him, which I'm sure we'll get in his final arc. It's just crazy because we met Mihawk in basically the beginning of One Piece.
He is the first high-tier character we get introduced to. And we don't realize, I mean, I guess except Shanks, but
yes,
Shanks wasn't presented as a villain.
Yeah.
Or not as a villain, but as an antagonist.
Yes.
He's the first like high-tier force we're introduced to. And we don't realize how fucking high-tier he is. But like when he shows up. But he shows up, first of all, he's fucking petty. Mihawk is petty, okay? Because Don Krieg went into the Grand Line, and then I guess he pissed Mihawk off. Mihawk destroyed Don Krieg's entire fleet, and then followed him all the way back to East Blue. Like, just fucking chased his, like, Don Krieg's whole, like, what's left of his crew is trying to get away from Mihawk. And just out of sheer boredom and his little coffin boat, he fucking follows them all the way through East Blue and cuts their galleon in half again. He's fucked up. He's petty, all right? Mihawk is petty.
Go ahead.
It was something, so I watched the 4Kids dub, because that was what was on when I was watching One Piece. It was something like, "Oh, you woke me up from my nap."
I remember something along those lines as well.
That just speaks volumes as to how petty this man is.
Yeah, I was reading the manga because I started off One Piece. The first, I don't know, 600 chapters or more, I read the manga. And it's crazy because when you're reading it just how it happens in the anime, him coming out of fucking nowhere and being ridiculous. It's the same thing when you're reading it like in your head, you're like, what the fuck is happening? Who is this guy? And why is he this strong? Why is this happening? And also the real question, how are they going to get out of the situation? It's always that, right? Anime, I had an entire conversation with Kenny on this podcast about, I love in every anime when the main character comes across an antagonist that they have no business being around at all. I love that shit. It's literally in Demon Slayer when Tanjiro comes across the last boss, like, Muzan. It's Ichigo running into Aizen in episode like 60 something. That shit is so cracked to me. It's them running into Orochimaru in the Forest of Death.
In the fort, I just watched those episodes. Like I'm rewatching
Every
from the
time.
beginning, and it gets there, and I'm like, Netflix adds the warning or whatever up in the corner. Fear. One of them is fear,
Damn.
and I was like, fear, and then it's the Orochimaru episode, and I was like, that's why.
Where Sasuke
That's
has to
why.
stab himself.
Yes.
Speaking of all these things, speaking of Bleach, my girlfriend just re-listened to the Bleach episode that we did, and she said she never finished Bleach, but when she listens to us talk about it, she gets excited. And I was like, oh, well, we're going to rewatch all of Bleach because it's coming out again in October, and we're just going to watch all of Bleach.
Our Bleach episode, that's within our first 10 episodes.
Yeah.
We covered we covered Dragon Ball Z / Dragon Ball in general. One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach were definitely in the first 10, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bleach, we'll be doing, like Kenny said, we'll be doing another episode on this podcast of the new season of Bleach at some point, because I am really excited. Apparently October is going to be crack as far as anime goes. It's like My Hero,
else coming out in October.
Chainsaw Man, My Hero, Bleach, Mob Psycho 3, and I'm missing some. That's how crazy October is going to be. Like, some of them are things that I don't personally watch.
Wild.
Yeah, October's supposed to be crazy. Also, this weekend, I gotta bring it up again. Game of Thrones comes back this weekend. The best show on TV comes back this weekend. So, like, it's giving crazy content coming from the IMNerd podcast in these next couple of months. We still
has time for all this. Like,
exactly. We didn't even get to finish our Death Note conversation. Like, who has time?
Y'all still haven't even done like a full My Hero episode.
We haven't. We literally haven't. You know what's crazy? There was a point in my life during this podcast, so within the last year, 365 days, because it's only a year old now, there was a point where I was afraid that we would run out of content. Can you believe that? Like,
I remember that. There
was a point where I was like, I wonder if we're always going to have something to talk about. And man, like, we actually have too much. We have a backlog now.
So like, just with Power Rangers alone, like, there's how many seasons? Sure, all the ones you didn't watch you can skip, but like, I'm looking at my shelf of comics, and
we haven't done Rurouni Kenshin. We haven't done Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah.
We haven't done Hunter x Hunter.
Even Power Rangers has a whole like separate comic universe that doesn't really line up with the show at all.
Yeah, because it started off in Japan anyway, right? Like, that is a Japanese show.
Super.
Yes, but like, there's just never a lack of DC Deck Builder.
Yes, when I first was talking about the podcast, I'm talking about the early days. I have a group of friends in this Discord chat, and we used to play DC all the time during the pandemic. It was like our main thing to do. We played DC almost every single day during the pandemic of 2020. And I was saying in 2021, when we started the podcast, I really want to do a chat or a podcast episode on DC deck building where we have the whole group just on the podcast talking. Obviously, it'll be a bit chaotic, but
yes,
I still think that it would be really fun because it's one of my favorite games, especially considering how much I played it during that year. And it's a game that, like, I don't know, me and Kenny have had some great moments at my apartment and just playing DC with our group of friends. Like, it's always, even our early days when we didn't really know how to play on a high level and we were just figuring things out with the base set, like figuring out that Aquaman was absolutely not okay, right? Like, he was just...
I remember when Harley Quinn, when everybody first realized Harley Quinn's not okay.
I think she was one of the first real bands. Yeah, Harley Quinn was one of the first cards or first heroes that you can play as that I had to ban from the house.
Cool. Early in DC, before there was any like meta to look at, before we found any internet groups, it was literally just us in the house, and we were developing the meta. It was really cool because every week we would come up with like a new team. Like Frazier would come up with like a new combo, or like I would come up with a new combo, and there'd be like weeks where like people would think like this character's bad, and then 2 months later somebody will like put them with some other character and create a little team, and it was a lot of fun.
Remember Black Animal?
Green Animal.
Oh, Green Animal.
It was Green Lantern and Animal Man. That team was not because I remember everybody saying Animal Man was bad, and then one day I was at it was me, Gary, Medina, and Cairo at Gary's house, and We were at Gary's house. I don't know where you were. You were probably at a Yu-Gi-Oh event.
Yeah,
Because at the time, I think you were still playing
I
Yu-Gi-Oh.
100% was playing Yu-Gi-Oh when we first started playing
Yeah.
DC.
So I actually think you were at. I think you were at like a YCS this weekend. So we were all at Gary's house, and everybody at the table was saying Animal Man's bad. And that's the weekend where Green Animal came out to play. And
I
that was
remember
fucking-
taking Green Animal and then making Black Animal. Black Animal is Black Manta and Animal Man because the concept is simple. You buy a card, you put it on the bottom of your deck, and then you buy another card that's a different color, you put it on the bottom of your deck, and on turn 3, you'll have Animal Man's effect, which is insane because you'll already play 2 real cards on turn 3, and then you'll also get the +2 power from Animal Man. So there was like a whole thing. And that was also the time we played with 2 heroes max. Like we didn't have a tier system or anything. So we would just say you get 2 heroes, but the way we would pick them was a system of like picking and banning. So
Yeah, we had a good draft.
yeah, so I would shuffle up the entire stack of main characters that you could play as. And then I would deal out, let's say if it was 4 people, I would deal out like 15 of them. Or probably more, like 20. I'll deal like 20 of them. There's 4 people playing, and then we would all take a round and ban one before anyone gets to pick anything. We would ban one. Everybody would go down the line and ban a hero, and then we would all pick a hero. Then we would ban another hero each, and then we would pick a hero. So that way, 8 heroes end up getting banned, and then everyone gets 2 heroes on their team. And it was really good because it prevented some obviously obnoxious combos from happening. Sometimes it's hard to prevent. And sometimes people are like, well, I want chaos, so I'm not banning. Like I'm choosing to not ban a real hero. And this, like when the 20 will come out, they look around and be like, fuck it. I want to make sure I get something good. So I'm not going to ban anything crazy. I'm just going to let it be. And those games are also fun.
I remember in the early days, it took a while for me to like actually start playing DC Deck Builder, but my friends had figured out, none of us were good at all, but they figured out if I got Wonder Woman, that was it.
I remember we had a friend that always played villains.
Yes,
But
Cairo,
for
right?
whatever reason, he would never play Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Wonder Woman from base set is actually pretty decent, but she was very slept on. And we have a friend that plays pretty much all villains.
Yeah, and this person didn't play Wonder Woman, and then I don't remember their exact gripes, but they were essentially just saying that she wasn't good. And
I just don't fathom that.
Yeah, because if you buy, obviously you know a villain needs to show up, right? But that's every hero, especially early on. Like, a lot of the base heroes were like this color. So anyway, but if you buy a villain turn 1, you have the strongest turn 2 possible because you just have. Is it turn 2 or turn 3? I forget, but you just have an extra card.
Turn 2, else. Immediately you go faster than everyone except Aquaman, which is the reason why Aquaman is the most broken because buy a kick turn 1 at the very least. Buy a kick, put it on top of your deck, and then you're already going +5 power next turn possibly. And if it's real crazy, you could end up with +6 power on turn 2 just because if you draw 4 punches and a kick next turn, the game might just end. Like I bought Heat Vision turn 2. Sorry guys, pack it up.
It's so a lot like the Digimon TCG. Playing Wonder Woman and buying villains scratches that like smooth part of my Yu-Gi-Oh player brain where drawing cards is like, oh, shiny object. It's just like, oh, I love it.
I made a team that consisted of Wonder Woman and Lex Luthor. And there was one point. There was one point where I was allowed to have more heroes than just those 2. It would be so Black Manta was in the tier 1, which means that he only costs 1 to put on your team out of 6.
Yeah.
So I would have Black Manta, Lex Luthor, Wonder Woman, and like one other hero, which is now in hindsight not okay. But turn 1, I'd be like, buy a hero or a villain, put it on the bottom of my deck with Black Manta, then immediately draw it because of their in-phase effect. So I'm drawing 6, and I'm drawing the card I just bought on turn. So it was one of the fastest teams in the game. And at first, we didn't take it too seriously. Like when I would play it against my friends, it would be like, okay, you win when you play that team, but like it doesn't look real. And then after a while, we realized this is actually probably a little too real, and we need to nerf it. And then they both went to the tier where you can only play Lex Luthor and Wonder Woman together. You can't play them with more than just those 2 together, though. You can't be like Lex Luthor, Wonder Woman, and then something else too.
One of the best teams to ever happen was Darkseid and Bizarro.
Oh yeah, I played that once.
Absolutely cracked out.
The other one that's crazy is Darkseid Deathstroke.
Yeah.
That team is just not okay. Oh my god, that team is that is my favorite team. I guess that's my second favorite team now because I ended up making a team that my group of friends considers one of the best teams of all DC. The competitive one where we play by like there's this cube, the Discord cube.
Yeah.
The team I made was Chameleon Boy, Phantom Girl, Starfire that destroys a card in your hand when you control 4 different card types, and Deadshot. And the team literally turn 1, you buy basically anything, and then you discard a card for Chameleon Boy because you could use his effect for no reason. So you're like, let's say you just buy like Sonic Siren out the lineup for 4, and then you discard your last card in hand, you put Sonic Siren on top of your deck with Deadshot's effect, and then next turn, you can discard the Sonic Siren to play a 4 or lower, and it will give you +1 power. So you play a card out the lineup with 4 lower costs because of Sonic Siren, but then you also get +1 power. So it just does a lot. And because you discarded Sonic Siren, it goes right back on top of your deck because of Deadshot. So it was just one of the most ridiculous, overpowered teams ever. Like my one friend Stango, Kenny's cousin, he still praised it as like the best team he's ever seen because it won 2 tournaments and like it was not even close. It was just so ridiculous how bad those games get. But yeah, good times.
I don't think I came up with it, but it's something I just like stumbled upon one day. Was Vixen and one of the
Zatanna tier 3, where she looks at the top 2 cards of your deck. That is such a broken combo.
I would play that because I was like, this is my safe combo because I don't really know what else is going on. Yeah. I'm not gonna win because I don't get to pick first or go first, but like this is gonna keep me alive in the game, so I'm not just absolutely slapped silly by like turn 5.
Yeah, Zatanna Vixen is still even in the current season or whatever they're on, is still one of the most powerful teams in DC deck building. That team is so cracked because we realized really early on that when you play Zatanna tier 3, I don't know what tier I think she's tier 2 now, which is crazy. But when you play as Zatanna, looks at the top 2 cards and can rearrange them or discard them, you end up with a turn 3 that is guaranteed to have a minimum of like 7 power. And that's not okay because basically what you do is, let's say, to keep it simple, you buy a kick turn 1, you buy a kick turn 2. And then on turn 2, you use Zatanna's effect to look at your graveyard, well, basically like shuffle your deck. So it'll shuffle in the 2 kicks that you just bought that were in the graveyard. It'll shuffle them in and your deck will become 7 cards exactly. And she looks at the top 2. So then if you see Vones or punches, you just discard them to the graveyard. And on the next turn, you end up with both kicks in your hand plus 3 punches. And so you just have 7 power minimum. And it can get crazier than that depending on what you bought. But at the very bare minimum, you have 7 on turn 3, which that basically buys anything in a lineup. And it just gets really out of hand right there. It just starts to spiral out of control. It's one of the best teams.
Game is insane.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole episode on that one.
I've been doing it like this whole time.
Absolutely.
I did not know you were drinking raw milk.
Listen.
Is that actual milk or is that one of the fake milks?
No, it's whole milk.
Oh my God. You monster.
That is wild to me, okay?
You are insane. How are you that skinny, first of all, drinking whole milk out the glass?
Okay, so I usually joke about it and I tell people like, oh, you don't get a figure like this without a lot of drugs, but like there was a lot of booger sugar for a bit. I don't know, it's my metabolism. Like after a while, like it just turned back into just the metabolism.
Milk is terrible. Okay, I like milk if like I dip cookies in it or brownies or whatever. I like my milk with cereal, but you can't catch me dead just drinking raw.
Me either. I'm glad to hear Kenny say this only because
it's so bad. Dude, first of all, it just smells like dick. Good milk smells like dick. Okay?
It does actually. It actually smells like penises.
Like, and it annoys me when the milk's been in the fridge for a bit because you gotta like smell it to see if the milk's still good. But like milk always smells bad anyway. Yeah. So you can't ever smell milk to know if it's good or not.
My dad would like sniff milk.
Like dick.
My dad would sniff milk to figure out if it was bad or not. And I would just stare at him like, how can you tell? Like, what am I waiting for? When will I know?
So I grew up drinking a lot of milk. That's just how it was in my house.
Yes.
But like, I go by the date printed on the jug.
Yeah.
Like on the gallon.
Yeah, that's what I go by too. But people are like, oh no, it's good a couple days after that. And they risk it.
That day, if there's any left, toss it. I immediately toss it.
That's the sell-by date. That's when the store sells it.
No
Listen,
way.
milk's terrible. It's so weird because milk enhances like cookies or something. Milk makes some things taste so fucking good, but on its own, it's just
Yeah, it's
absolutely
actually absurd how good milk makes things taste because I make banana pudding for like family gatherings and stuff like that, or like potlucks that we have at work. I'll make banana pudding and literally it uses whole milk, which again I hate. But when you combine all the ingredients and all of the stuff that goes into it, it is one of the best tasting desserts you will ever eat in your life. And the same goes with like cakes that are made with milk, cheesecake, or like baked macaroni and cheese uses milk. There's a lot. Like milk is used in a lot of things that are just some of the best foods I've ever had.
a great ingredient. Milk is an ingredient. All right, I want to. It's not something that's supposed to be consumed on its own. It's a fucking
So,
ingredient, like paprika.
like so many people, like when they find out, they're like, "Are you a fucking psychopath? Like,
I just
what's
wasn't
wrong
ready
with
to
you?"
look at your webcam and see you drink raw fucking milk out
I
the
did
glass.
not see this man drinking milk until literally
I
like
just
5 minutes
wasn't
ago.
ready for that.
But like, it's something I'm just like, hey, it's it is what it is. Like the way y'all look at me for drinking milk is the way I look at people for drinking coffee. I just
Yeah,
I just cannot do
I'll
it.
pass on coffee. I'm a bit of a
It's
weird one though, because I'm in the
I don't drink
finance
coffee
world.
either.
Oh, good. I'm in the
I
finance
don't. I
world.
don't like it.
You don't like the taste of it, right?
I don't like the taste of it, but more than that, I don't like the idea of being addicted to anything. I don't
Yeah,
like the idea of something having control over like my body, my brain, and like my
yeah,
wants.
because it
And
literally does.
I see the way people can't function without like they get coffee in their system and they can't live their life without drinking coffee when they wake up, and I don't like the idea of that. So
I'm the same way, Kenny. I think that it started off for me as a really bad fear of maybe even a rational fear of becoming addicted to it, right? Because I just think I'm not a fan of being addicted to anything. Like I don't even like drugs or anything like that. Like I just don't like the idea of being addicted to any substances. So I always feared coffee because again, the way adults would talk about it around me when I was a kid was like, I am not
yep,
a person until I have my coffee.
yep.
And hearing them say that is like, what the fuck? Like, what does that mean? You're not a person until you have your coffee, and they have to have it every day. So me, I always abstained from coffee. And then obviously I joined corporate America to be an accountant, and every single person drinks coffee, basically. Like it's just normal to like I'm abnormal because I do not drink coffee. And I don't know, it never appealed to me. It just never spoke to me. That's one of those things that I just never cared for.
My caffeine addiction comes in the form of Dr. Pepper, which is horrific on my teeth. But like,
Dr. Pepper's great. I love the way it tastes.
it's I have one every day that I go to work, and it's so bad.
Yeah, I actually, growing up, Dr. Pepper was one of my favorite sodas because it was kind of a rare soda too. Usually you just end up with like Pepsi, Coke, Sprite, and Mountain Dew. Those are like the big four that you'd see at any gathering. Maybe a Sunkist might be thrown in here or there. But Dr.
Yeah.
Pepper was the one there was never as much Dr. Pepper as there was Pepsi and Coke, right? It was always oh shit, there's a can of Dr. Pepper in the cooler. You know, when you're at the cookout and you lift up the cooler, you see all the shit in there. There would be like one or two Dr. Peppers in the entire thing, and there'd just be a ton of Sprites, Cokes, and Pepsis. So I'd always grab it because I was a hipster. And then next thing I know, I'm like, man, this shit is actually just crack. Like Dr. Pepper is actually kind of nice.
As far as I'm aware, it comes from Texas. So like, it's always here.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. So
What
I
is
always
it?
just grew up.
Is it a blackberry soda? Is that what it is? I forget what
I
Dr.
try not
Pepper
to.
actually is.
Somebody was
Plus,
like,
I
it's
don't
literally
fucking know
just,
what it is.
it's just cherry Coke. And I was like, I used to love cherry Coke. So, I mean, if that's true, it makes sense why I moved to Dr. Pepper, because it would just taste the same.
Oh, yeah. So it says it makes it hard to give an objective description because it's made of 23 flavors: cherry, allspice, vanilla, mint, licorice. So it's a lot of shit. Like there's a ton of things that go in it. Yeah, there's a ton of things that go into Dr. Pepper. I never realized that I was tasting that many different things because there was a meme. I wish I still had it. I need to start saving memes more often, but it said like Dr. Pepper tastes like fried blackberries or something like that. And it was a rant.
So good.
It was like a random thing. It was like Dr. Pepper tastes like fried something. And it was such a random food or like fruit or something. And I agree. Like I don't know what it really is. Like I don't know what I'm drinking. I just know I like it.
You're drinking heaven. That's what you're drinking.
It is pretty heavenly. Although I don't drink soda anymore. I haven't drank soda really in like I've had obviously a a soda beverage in the last 10 years, but honestly, I could probably count on these two hands how many times I've had soda in the last 10 years. That's how crazy I have not been drinking soda. Like, I just don't drink soda, which is because of my skin mainly. Like, I break out and like all types of shit.
But I don't drink soda. I haven't drank soda for years. I'm not even gonna say all my adult life, for basically most of my life. Because when I was like 10 years old, I made a bet with one of my friends. We just randomly made like one of those stupid childhood bets.
Yeah.
And it was like, who can not drink soda the longest? Like, we're going to see who can not drink soda the longest. It's like, I won. I just.
I mean.
I just like.
Oh, shit. Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's it. When I was like 10 years old, I made a bet with my friend that like we wouldn't drink soda and like who could last the longest. And then like, I just never really drank soda again.
Kenny has the Willa D. His name is Kenneth D. Elgato, and he really like Kenny has the absolute. I have it too, and I think it's like kind of evident. But like Kenny has that shit for real because at 10 years old, this man walked up to his friend and was like, "Deal," and basically never went back.
Anything for a W.
Anything for a W. I agree.
Like I don't drink soda, I don't do drugs, I don't drink, but I like to make it real clear that it's not like for health or anything like that. Good conversation.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk a little bit about My Hero, because we do have an episode for My Hero coming out at some point. Like we're going to do an episode soon. But I did want to kind of just discuss My Hero a little bit because like is one of the things you wanted to talk about. And it's also something that I've been really, really, really enjoying the manga lately. It's been getting really crazy. I'm not going to spoil anything.
I am not current on My Hero.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil what's been happening, but Kenny's far enough to at least, like, I'm trying to think about what the last thing you would have seen, because at the very least, Kenny has seen the entire season that's about to premiere. So like the whole war that's coming with Shigaraki, when he first wakes up and he just starts bodying everybody and killing people by just touching the ground. Like me and Kenny have both seen the entire war that is coming up with Shigaraki before they have like a break and then they decide they're going to come up with some big plan to beat him and all that stuff. So right now, I have not finished the anime, the last season. I'm halfway through it. So I'm I think they just finished that exam or like the class versus class battles. You know what I mean? That part. That's the first half of the season. I'm done with that part. And then, Deku activated his new quirk and everyone's kind of scared because he was screaming when he was first activated. It was going haywire. And that part's really good. I actually like the way they did some of the animations. They added some stuff to it for sure. I like when studios do that. But now I know the second half of that is supposed to be My Villain Academia. And I guess the reason why I've been dragging my foot as far as watching My Hero Academia's newest season is because I heard they didn't do a good job with the My Villain arc. I heard they kind of like sped it up or cut some stuff out. And
so I'll say I haven't watched the most recent season that's out yet. Once again, I did read all of that in the manga already. I do know people that have watched it, people whose opinions I trust, and they are not manga readers, and they said it's like really fucking good. So
okay,
they
good.
Really, really like it. Here's what I'll say. I don't know what happened, but the internet has started to turn on My Hero Academia. I've seen a lot of people just say that My Hero is mid, say that it's not that good. I've heard people say that like Demon Slayer came out and it killed My Hero and My Hero's trash and Demon Slayer.
Wow.
Like, for whatever reason, the internet has just kind of turned on My Hero, and I've seen just a lot of hate. It reminds me of like Bleach Naruto days, where the Demon Slayer, for whatever reason, Demon Slayer just became so fucking big, and it's somehow casting a lot of hate toward My Hero, and I don't really know why.
I don't like that. I don't like, I mean, obviously I don't like that because I'm not a child. So like people who do stuff like that, where something new comes out and they start shitting on the thing that was popular before it, it's really annoying. And you are right, Kenny, that is a part of anime culture now that I genuinely despise it. I noticed it so Demon Slayer came out and then everyone was talking about how great it was, best thing they ever seen. And then Tokyo Revengers and Jujutsu Kaisen followed. And I noticed every year the entire internet anime community would be like, this is the best thing ever. Fuck Demon Slayer, fuck Tokyo Revengers, Jujutsu Kaisen is literally the best thing. The animation is so clean, the story is the best. And I'm like, wait a second. Literally 2 years ago, y'all were praising Demon Slayer for being some of the best shit you've ever seen. And then Tokyo Revengers comes out. You're like, oh, this is so much better. That Demon Slayer show is terrible. And I don't like this flavor of the week thing that's been going on with the anime community. It's really obnoxious. It's really corny. And then people keep posting, and this is really weird to me. but I keep seeing people post, and I don't know if these stats are real, but it'll be like Tokyo Revengers is the best selling manga in Japan. And then they'll be like, oh, well, I told y'all Demon Slayer is trash. And like that is not how that works. Like there's just so many bad hot takes right now with the anime community that drive me crazy. Like they're really, really bad takes. And I'm not really sure who's starting them or why it's happening, but it's actually starting to really make me not like the community as much as I like anime itself. Like I'm kind of just getting away from the anime community as a whole, which is really sad because the internet is just making me not like some of the things I see people post with this kind of elitist and gatekeeper attitude towards the best anime or the best mangas and stuff. Like I always say, and I'm consistent about this, that One Piece is the best manga, the best anime or whatever for me, or the best manga for me. And I'm consistent with that. You'll never hear me say anything else. It's always going to be One Piece. But people seem to just jump from new hot thing to new hot thing. So right now, the thing that's being hyped the most is Chainsaw Man. And I'm literally hearing the exact same stuff repeated about Chainsaw Man that I heard about My Hero back in the day, Demon Slayer back in the day, Tokyo Revengers, Jujutsu Kaisen. It's now Chainsaw Man. Now Chainsaw Man is the best thing, and Jujutsu Kaisen is now mid. And it's like, yo, this can't be a thing every couple months or every year where the new thing comes out and people just hype up the new thing and they completely shit on whatever was hype before that. It's really corny.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
I think what it is that they enjoy like the new instant gratification of whatever the new thing is while they're waiting for the next piece of the old thing.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
I know what you mean, because people basically in between seasons, they start to hate the anime somehow. It's like you enjoyed it when it was airing and when everyone was talking about it on Twitter and when it was going viral, it was the best thing ever, right? But then you got people who will start to say shit like, well, now that, for example, My Hero is not airing currently. So now My Hero is considered mid because it's not airing currently and Twitter's not going crazy about Deku versus Shigaraki. But I bet you when Deku and Shigaraki start fighting or they start doing anything in this upcoming season, people are going to lose their fucking minds.
They're like, that shit's mid. It's not trending right now. It's like, what? It's not airing right now.
Yeah, and that's just not how it works. Like, even if it is airing and it's not trending, that is still not a reason to make it like to shit on it. That I hate like that. It's basically like if it's not being talked about by everybody on the internet, like how Demon Slayer was, episode 19, season 1. If it's not that, then they don't want it, and I think that's just corny. It's just not good. Like, yeah. Go ahead.
Another part of it is like so I stay off Twitter. But my niece would tell me like, oh, the My Hero fandom is real toxic on Twitter. And, you know, she tells me things about stuff like other anime she enjoys, like Attack on Titan and Haikyuu. And like Twitter is just a very toxic portion of the fan base that's also very vocal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about that. You know, I'm not on Twitter. And she's like, well, I'm not going to be on Twitter anymore either. But one day I was on TikTok. I know, shame on me. I'm 20. I'll be 29 next month, and I have a TikTok. But like, they were saying, don't go to this fucking sound, and I was like, oh, what the fuck ever. So I went to the sound. It was the most vile thing I've ever seen from a member of the My Hero fandom. It was just disgusting. I'm not even going to describe it. It was disgusting, and I was like, what is wrong with y'all? And why does your hatred or dislike of a character lead you to do something this literally disgusting?
Yeah, that's weird. Very weird energy.
It's just children on the internet. Like, it's just children on the internet. Like, when YouTube first came out, the things that were on YouTube when YouTube first came out, you're like, why did anybody record that? But that's what it is.
Yeah, somehow it's gotten to the point where, you know, internet trolls have always been a thing since the internet exists, right? Like, once people realized I'm behind a screen, I can do what I want, and remain anonymous, it has created a toxic environment and also a really good environment in other places. But I think that it's starting to get to the point where you said something interesting about people voicing their opinions about like negative stuff. I think that the people who voice their opinions the most are people who have negative things to say.
Yeah.
Like, for example, and Silverman brought this up about restaurants and reviews. Most people don't review a restaurant when it's when it's good.
Yeah.
If you go to a restaurant and have a good time, you don't go on Yelp.
Yeah, like you don't write a review on a restaurant. Usually, most people don't write reviews if they had a pleasant experience and the food was good. Most people write reviews and give feedback when shit's bad. And that you have to imagine doesn't translate to just restaurants. It probably goes into other things too. Like I know some people genuinely don't like My Hero. Like you don't have to like My Hero. There's nothing wrong if you don't like it. I think the people who don't like it now, as Kenny was pointing out, I think the people who don't like it now are just the people who are most vocal. So it's like coming up more often because the people who just hate on things are the people who go viral a lot. Like people just who are angry on the internet. Being angry on the internet is actually kind of like a thing that it makes you viral. Like that is how people go viral oftentimes. You look at like the Breakfast Club, for example. Birdman came up there and that went the most viral of anything that the Breakfast Club has ever done because he was angry. It's an angry, all three of y'all like put some respect on my name. That went viral because he was angry. It's always something with like anger that typically gets people interested in something. And I think that the same thing kind of happens with people who think it's cool to just be like angry at My Hero or angry at Demon Slayer, or angry at all these things. Like I enjoy all of these anime. I think that they are fantastic. I'm glad that anime is where it is right now. I think that it is crazy that Bleach is coming back and the animation on it looks fucking phenomenal. As a side note, today I saw that One Punch Man is coming back for season 3, and apparently this is rumored, but it's rumored that they're switching studios again. So this will be a third studio change.
I wonder if there's just like, I wonder what the deal is behind the scenes. Like, what's the trouble with One Punch Man Studio and the license? There's got to be something going on behind the scenes that makes the licensing difficult.
Yeah, because Mob Psycho is the same guy, right?
Yeah, Mob Psycho is made by the same person,
and
but
they're not switching seasons. They're not switching studios every season somehow. So
yeah,
it's weird.
I don't know.
That is an interesting thing.
Productions of shows, it's all about, are we happy with what we brought in because of this product?
Yeah.
I think with Scrubs, I listened to the Scrubs Rewatch podcast and they talk about they were on, I think it was like 3 separate networks because at some point that network is just like, well, we're no longer bringing in the money whatever.
The ratings might dip and stuff like that. You know what I hated? Before One Punch Man even aired for season 2, people were talking about how bad the animation was. So I didn't watch One Punch Man season 2 for a very long time. And then when I finally watched it, I was so confused because I genuinely do not think that the animation for One Punch Man season 2 is bad even a little bit. I actually think that it just looks completely normal for 2022, 2021 anime. Like it looks good. The first episode has Garo beating up on one of the top heroes. He beats his ass. At first, the guy beats Garo's ass. And then Garo goes into he says, I hate using this. And he goes into this Fang, his trainer. He goes into this water dance stance. And the animation on that fucking scene is so absurd when he ruins him. He fucking ruins the guy. And it looks so clean. And I was like, wait a second. I just realized this is the same show that I was told, and the whole internet tried to make me believe that the animation was like so terrible and so much worse than season 1. And I'm watching it like, y'all are just literally repeating something that you heard on the internet. And I hate that. I hate that whole groupthink thing. The hive mind.
It's just how it is now. I mean,
it is. It really is how it is now. And that's sad that that's the answer. That's just how it is.
It be what it be, but I mean, that's just the way of the internet.
Yeah. Hive mind is real. It's very real. And I guess that because we're in a very unique place, I always say that like Kenny and I guess you too, because you're about to be 29, so you're up there as far as what I'm about to say. People who were born or existed before the internet became what it is right now, and we got to see the world before Google and YouTube and like Facebook and all that stuff. Like you existed before Facebook, right? And before social media. Like you were a person who was able to completely form thoughts before social media became a thing. And so you got to see the world before it, and now you got to see the world after it. And I think that it's harder to make us jumping on the hive mind, whereas people who are younger than us, like much younger, and they basically came of age in the era of social media. So all they ever known was posting thoughts and agreeing with other people's opinions, right? Like that's all they've ever known is seeing someone else's opinion be put on display and either agreeing with it or disagreeing with it. But when you agree with it, it's amplified. Yeah, people tend to amplify it. And I think that's just not who we are. Like Kenny and I think are very individualistic. Like when we don't like something or when we do like something, we stand by it. You really, it's really hard to get us to like change our stance on something. And we disagree with each other on certain things too. But like when we firmly stand on something or firmly disagree with something, that's it. No one on Twitter can convince us otherwise. Like you just can't. This man stopped drinking Dr. Pepper because all of soda, because he made a bet with his friend. That's how stubborn we are.
Yeah, that's it. It's a wrap.
I mean, my wife will be the first one to tell you I am probably the most hard-headed, stubborn person she's ever met in her life. And I'm the exact same way with like, once I like something, you will have to move heaven and hell simultaneously in order to get me to change my mind.
Yeah.
Same if I don't like it. Like,
yeah, same thing. Like you can't get me to eat fucking coleslaw.
Oh, coleslaw slaps though.
No.
Not all coleslaw slaps.
You know what it is? I look at it and I just can't. I'm a visual person. The second I look at coleslaw, I'm just like, nope. Go ahead, Kenny.
When I order a fucking burger or something with fries and they like, don't put that shit in the same container. All right, don't give me a little fucking don't leave it out. I don't want your little fucking coleslaw in there. Like, leave it the fuck.
You don't even know
why is it there? Why is it there?
You know what creeped me out? When I found out that it was mayonnaise. When I found out that it was like diced up vegetables and mayonnaise, I was like, nope, fuck that.
I just don't know why it's there.
No longer slaps.
Am I supposed to put this on my fucking burger? Why would I have this beautiful burger with barbecue sauce and bacon. Why would I put this on it?
Listen, don't worry, Quest, because again, if in Texas, I bet that it probably tastes so much better in Texas because it is kind of a barbecue food.
Yeah.
Like, from what I understand, coleslaw is really a barbecue food. It's meant to go with burgers. It's meant to go with cookouts and stuff like that. And here in Philly and like where we live at, it gets thrown in with some random shit. Like you'll order a pizza and it'll just have coleslaw on the side. It's like, what the fuck is that?
This? Why is this a thing?
Like that is a terroristic act to put fucking coleslaw next to my pizza. Are you crazy?
That is the sign of a psychopath.
That is literally the sign of a psychopath. Marinara and mayo do not go together. I don't care what anyone says. But yeah, go ahead.
Now that I've learned that it's mayonnaise, like I like mayonnaise
on my
burger and on my sandwich, but like maybe coleslaw doesn't slap anymore.
Listen, if it tastes good to you, to each his own. But my whole point in saying that is like, when I like something or when I don't like something, and the same with you guys, like when you like something, when you don't like something, like no one can convince you that you don't like Power Rangers or that Power Rangers is bad, right? Like Power Rangers is still something that for me, it'll always be good because it was something that made my childhood great. Like it is part of the reason why my childhood was good. And I had to realize the same thing with other things in my life as well. There was a period that I went through where I started to become real hipster with anime and I started to hate Dragon Ball, right? Because it's like Dragon Ball has a really, really not great story. And that's still true. Like that is still just like Dragon Ball Z specifically. I was
going to say.
Yeah, because I never really watched Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball Z doesn't have the best story. And that is a fact, but that doesn't mean that it's still not great, right? Like just because it doesn't have a good story and that like, oh, the animation back then was them just repeating the same thing over and over. Like for all it's worth, everything that we watch now is inspired by that show, right? Like that.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to appreciate
Naruto is a fucking orange and blue ninja, for God's sakes. Like,
yeah.
You think it's an accident that a ninja wears orange? Like, no, that motherfucker is Goku.
Yes.
Right?
Like, how are you supposed to be stealthy wearing orange and blue?
Yeah,
no, you did this on purpose.
And then his main like anti-hero guy, Sasuke, is Vegeta, like in every shape and form. Like he has the same hair. Basically, they have the same type of hairstyle and everything. Like they are so similar. The colors they wear, Sasuke wears blue and white. Vegeta literally wears blue and white. Like it is uncanny how close the resemblance of Naruto to Dragon Ball Z. But my overarching point here is that like sometimes you may find yourself hating on something that you don't actually hate, but it's kind of hip to hate it.
Yeah.
And
that's 100% what happened with DBZ. There's like a period of time where every anime fan, it started to become really cool to say DBZ sucks. And it's like, all right, relax.
Yeah. Like it doesn't suck. It's not going to be Death Note storyline, but like for what it is, it's amazing. It is top of its class for what it is. And it's the inspiration for everything that we watch today as far as shonens. So like, you know,
I will blaspheme for a second. I am not the biggest Dragon Ball Z or Super fan. I really did love Dragon Ball.
Yeah, well, Dragon Ball is, from what I understand, the more superior of all of them, honestly.
I just like when your fighting ability matters. Like in anime, I love that. That's why I love Yu Yu Hakusho. That's why I love G Gundam.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball is great, but like Dragon Ball Z, I will concede like it set the standard for what your anime or what your series should be when it comes to fighting
Yeah. When it comes to
and
fighting,
the hype.
yeah, I was gonna say that word hype. When it comes to fighting and hype, it is tier 0. Like it is literally tier
Yes.
0 as far as setting the bar for fighting and hype and just like cool characters, like just decent ass characters. There's something about Dragon Ball, the whole franchise, and even in Super, like I'm genuinely, this is how crazy it is. I am genuinely and eagerly waiting for the next season of Dragon Ball Super because they animated the Tournament of Power so well. And the fights and everything, they you know what they did? They realized like this, we were never meant to be this great crazy storyline, right? Like the Tournament of Power doesn't have a real crazy story. There's no crazy story to it. It's literally a fight. It's a very long fight, right? So they play to their strengths, and I think that's why I love this so much because when you know your strengths, like focus on that. Like do what you do best. And the Tournament of Power is quintessential Dragon Ball. It is the best part of Dragon Ball to me is just seeing crazy ass fights, crazy shit talking, and crazy feats. It's like all of those things wrapped up into one nice 30 plus episode season of anime. And the animation. Like no one can shit on it anymore because it doesn't do that repeated frame thing anymore. It doesn't just have them doing the same 5 or 6 moves over and over again.
Nobody can talk bad about UI Goku, okay?
UI Goku is the
animation
freshest
on
thing
UI
ever.
Goku is too fresh.
It was wild because the hype for the fight between Jiren and Goku, I would go on Facebook and I would see people who I never see post on Facebook.
Yep.
They just get tagged and stuff, and who I, grew up with, and they're posting about, yo, can't wait to see this fight. And I'm like, you haven't posted in like 6 years. This is what you're going to post about? Like, that's wild.
Do you know that in Mexico, I don't know where specifically. I think it was Mexico, but they sold tickets to like a show to like they sold tickets to that episode. What I mean is somebody got that episode like on a huge TV and they sold tickets for people to go there and like watch that episode together like in a fucking arena or some shit. Like they legit sold tickets to Goku versus Jiren. Like
that's
that
crazy.
shit was wild.
I mean, it was that hype though. It was honestly. So
it was.
I think in all of anime, because I think that so one of my beliefs in life is that today is always better than yesterday. Like the future is always better. The present is always better than the past for me. Like anime has gotten better overall. I would say video games have gotten better overall. Like that to me, that is like something that I will argue anyone down about. I just think that people are like, oh, like music was better back then, or like games are better back then, or movies are better back then. I just strongly disagree. I think that the best things are being created right now. And while it is nice, the things that we grew up on and all that stuff, I do think that like quality of content overall has gotten better now. So with that being said, seeing Dragon Ball Super like really push the envelope of quality in terms of animation in everything that I've seen in my entire life of watching anime, Goku doing a Kamehameha and like Tony Hawking on a fucking blast.
Yes.
To do a point blank Kamehameha in someone's face is like literally top 2 things I've ever seen as far as hype fights. And it probably isn't number 2.
Like that moment. So I was at my buddy Deuce's house, 2-time ARG champion Deuce Miat.
Okay.
Shout out.
Oh, I know him. I know him very well. We actually played in Top Cut of a YCS Minneapolis, I believe. I was playing my Metal Spectre deck that's like 51 cards, a complete homebrew, and he was playing something else with Pendulum Metal Foes probably, and I ended up taking it. But he is really good at Yu-Gi-Oh, and I haven't seen or heard from him in a long time.
He moved to Austin. Deuce and I are really close. He actually stood in my wedding. He moved to Austin. He got a promotion. He hasn't played since Zoo format, I want to say.
Yeah, that's around the last time I saw him.
There was some weird Arcana Force the World loop that he was trying to do, but I think that was the last time he played actually.
Okay.
But I remember during the Tournament of Power, they were like, hey, we're going to go to Deuce's and we're going to play DC and watch Dragon Ball Super. And we stopped playing DC just to watch Goku Tony Hawk on some little girl's energy blast, just to point blank blast her in the face.
Yo,
And
honestly,
That was somewhat a hot. Like it was so because Dragon Ball Z started the beam struggle,
yes.
and
yes,
those like big energy struggles ended up becoming a staple of like those high powered anime. So when the godfather of that trope sets you up for that to happen again.
Yeah.
Everybody and their mom thought a beam struggle was about to happen. And when Goku noped the shit out of that little girl, oh
Like
my
he skated
God.
on it. And what's cool about it, speaking of how like again things in the present are so much better. So the animation on that, I always call her Kefka, and I don't think that's her name, but
It's Kefla.
I think
Kefla.
I
Kefka's
think
the clown.
Kefka is
The clown from Final Fantasy, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I always get those confused. But Kefla, that fusion was really cool to begin with. Like the fact that the two girls fused to make a Super Saiyan, right? Like
She was dope.
that was a hype moment in the show without Goku doing anything. And then what he did and how cool their blast, because remember their blast is two-toned.
Yeah. Her blast was sick as shit. When she's like powering up and it's like the red lightning.
The
Like,
way
she was looking hot.
the colors on that blast, the way it's two-toned and everything, it has like such a cool effect that we haven't really seen in Dragon Ball before. So it already looked cool. Again, this is what Goku doing nothing new. And then for them to find a way to make it just that much better by saying, oh, you thought it was going to be a beam struggle? Watch him jump on it and then slide down it and beam her in the face. And I almost feel the same feeling as No Way Home. No Way Home is 20 years in the making, right? It's the best Spider-Man movie ever created. And it's because it took literally 20 years to make it. It is better than Avengers Endgame for me because Avengers Endgame, while it took like 10 years to make Avengers Endgame, and it is really epic and really cool, the first part of that movie, not the greatest. I'm just kind of moping around and everything like that. And you can listen to our episode about that. It's still a great movie, don't get me wrong. But I think overall, No Way Home is a better movie because it gets you to the point immediately. And I think that it just has a better overall direction. But the feeling I got from No Way Home and how it took 20 years in the making is the same feeling I get from that Kamehameha. It's all of my childhood and everything that I think I know about Dragon Ball and the way they just like write and direct the fights. And then you kind of subvert it and do something that I just didn't expect at all. Like you took what I expected to happen every time because it happened every other time. And you did the 1% chance different thing. And it blew everyone's minds when they saw it. It was just really, really well done. I talk about this moment a lot. Like it's just one of the best things to me. But yeah.
It was a moment that like I am a hater of Super, but it was a moment where even I had to stop and go, what the fuck was that? That was insane.
Like I am not the biggest fan of like Dragon Ball Super. In fact, I am completely a poser when it comes to Dragon Ball Super because the only thing I've ever watched of the entire franchise is all the movies and the Tournament of Power. I have not seen Goku Black or whatever he's called. That whole arc, like Black Z, whatever he's called. I haven't seen any of that stuff. Like I don't know what came before the Tournament of Power, and I really don't care about what happened or what is going to happen after. I just want to see cool fights animated more because that's their strength.
A really cool fight you should probably watch if you haven't seen it.
I haven't.
Is the first tournament from Dragon Ball Super, the Universe 6 tournament. If you want to skip the whole tournament, that's fine. I would say though, Vegeta versus Kaba is cool just because it's a cool sensei moment for Vegeta. But what you need to watch though is Vegeta versus Hit and then Goku versus Hit. Goku versus Hit in the Tournament 6 arc is so fucking fly. I remember at the time I was doing door-to-door sales for Verizon, and the day that episode came out, right? And by the way, I think most door-to-door sales jobs have like this really cult-like thing. There's certain jobs where they create a cult atmosphere to like convince you that you're part of the family and convince you that the job you're doing is not a complete piece of shit job. And door-to-door sales is that kind of job. So anyway, you would have to be there in the office, like in a suit and everything, like 3 hours before you're even actually working. Because the thing that you get paid for is going door to door and selling shit.
Yeah.
They wanted you there early for nonsense. Anyway, so I'm there, and we're not even like on the clock yet or anything. And I'm downstairs, like in the basement, and I'm on my cell phone watching Dragon Ball Super because it's like the day that episode came out. I downloaded it. I had to go. And I'm watching that episode like popping off, like by myself on my phone, like on a couch, just like, oh my fucking
Yeah, I
just
gotta
like
watch it
watching
now.
it, hopping the fuck off. And I remember my boss came down and he got super mad at me because he was like, mad at me because I was downstairs like on my phone. And he was like, you should be upstairs communicating with the team. And I was just like, well, I'm not on the clock yet, so like this is my time. This is like, there's nothing you're going to do to get me to be like
Yeah, to
be
not
annoyed.
watch this fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's my time. Like you can just go back upstairs. Like I'm not like it'll be okay. But anyway, that fucking fight, Goku versus Hit, 1,000,000% you should watch it because it is fucking sick.
Yeah, I'll go through it. I don't mind. It's the same way I feel about Boruto. Like Boruto to me is terrible. I did try to get into the storyline of it, but I cannot stress enough how much space ninjas do not interest me. So I will never like it. I will never like it. I'm just going to stand by. I'm saying it right now. I will never like Boruto, but I do like the fights because again, the current is better than everything before it, technically, just because of production value getting higher. The shit that I see as far as the way they animate those fights, like for example, the best looking fight of all of Naruto, like the entire franchise, the best looking fight is them versus Momoshiki. Like that fight where adult Sasuke and adult Naruto versus Momoshiki, that is the absolute best fight in all of Naruto, like period. Like that is just objectively the best fight. Other fights we think are really cool, really iconic, and all type of stuff. But like if you want to just talk about the fight itself and like how insane it is, what's happening on screen, it's that one. And so I don't know, like Boruto, I feel the same way. I don't care about the story at all, but I will watch it just for the fights. And I'll do the same thing for Dragon Ball Super. And when Dragon Ball Super's new arc airs, whatever it is,
it's been a couple months since I read the manga, but I was current with the manga, and like the manga is now way past where the anime was.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're ever going to get back around to animating it, but there's a lot of shit that's happening in the manga.
I think that after the Tournament of Power and its reception being as big as it was, because at one point Dragon Ball Super was like the biggest thing. Like that time when the Tournament of Power was airing,
Dragon Ball was back. It was crazy.
Yeah, Dragon Ball was back for the whole world. It was huge. It was like Pokemon when Pokemon came back in 2015, 2016. But yeah, Dragon Ball was back. So I think that the reception was so good that it would be a travesty if they don't continue it. And I think that the next thing is like Moro, the Ram dude or whatever. I saw little bits and pieces of him like just scrolling the internet.
There's something that Vegeta gets that I've heard like bits and pieces of because I don't read it.
Yeah.
But the name for it is...
So spoiler alert for people who do not know anything about what's going to happen in Dragon Ball Super. We're going to say some things that happen in Dragon Ball Super. So you're talking about Ultra Ego.
It's chef's kiss. Fucking perfect.
Yeah.
To give him a power up that's just Ultra Ego. I was like...
Yeah, and then he like loses his eyebrows, right? Like he's purple and loses his eyebrows.
Yeah, he like loses his eyebrows and like gets that Vegeta look.
Yeah, I love that. Trust me, I know the one.
Perfect.
The setup for that's pretty cool too. If you guys don't, basically it's like Goku has Ultra Instinct, all that shit, and then Beerus at one point like offhandedly says to Vegeta like, "Do you think like that's all there is? Like, do you think it's just Ultra Instinct?" He's like, do you think a God of Destruction fights that way? Like, we clear our mind? He's like, that's not how God of Destructions fight. And basically, like, Beerus starts planting the seed for Vegeta to discover new ways of getting power because, like, he was like, yeah, like, those angels clear their minds. He's like, that's not what Gods of Destruction do. Like, I ain't about that life. Like,
I love that.
He's like, there's other ways to, like, attain a higher power. And it's pretty sick.
Oh, I really like that.
Even the angel...
Whis.
He planted that seed too, where he told them like, Vegeta, if you just let go of your ego, and Goku, you operate only on instinct. And by this point, I saw this like maybe a month and a half ago, and I was like, yo, were they really like putting that shit in?
Yeah, that's a callback.
Yeah, like that early on, leading up to them getting Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego. Ah, man.
I mean, we love a good callback.
Everybody loves a good callback.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. So I'm excited for Dragon Ball Super to return, just for nothing else but the amazing fight sequences that I know we'll get now, because I just feel like they're going to do a really good job with it again. And that's kind of where I'll leave it with that. Like, I just think, I think it's, it's become very hip to hate on things, but just reevaluate the things that you hate. Like, I think that everyone should, because I had to reevaluate the things that I hate as well. And I realized that some things I was hating, not because I actually hate them, but because I was kind of misunderstanding the way I truly feel about something based on what I saw on the internet. Like, while I do agree, you will never hear me caping for Dragon Ball Z's story. That just won't happen, right? But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's an awful anime. That's wild.
On the other hand, I will argue that I think DBZ's story is a bit better than people give it credit for. Not to say that it's Death Note or One Piece or Hunter x Hunter, but for what it is,
It's nowhere close.
Yeah, but for what it is,
nowhere close. Why'd you name those three? Why'd you have to go so?
Because I had to make it real clear that I think DBZ's writing, and specifically Akira Toriyama, he's a much better writer than the internet likes to give him credit for. And but I also wanted to clarify, like, I'm not saying he's Ichiro Oda. Like,
yeah.
Very few people are.
Yeah, very few people are. So that's fair. All right, before we get out of here, I want to give a shout out to the people on our Patreon, as I always do, including, this is going to be awkward, Quest is here with us today. So well, I'm going to give him a shout out anyway, because, this is what I do. But yes, Quest is the first person to record an episode using the optional boss Patreon, which is exclusive to only one person at a time. So shout out to Quest for doing that. We appreciate you, King. And this episode was really fun, despite the fact that we had some technical difficulties in the middle, but I think it cleared itself up. It worked itself out.
Yeah,
we still got to get our rants in. Yeah.
On Patreon, you'll get to see all the technical difficulties. It's beautiful.
Yeah, on Patreon, you'll get the raw, unedited. You'll get to hear about our rant on milk and coleslaw.
Wait. You've got to leave the milk slander in.
I'll see what I can do.
Like, we've got to leave something wild for the people.
How random it was, because we had just got technical difficulty, and we were just kind of sitting here waiting for stuff to happen, and then and then I was just taken all the way aback. I looked up, and you were just drinking raw fucking milk out the glass, and I just wasn't ready.
All right, so let me give a shout out to the patrons real quick. Again, we have a Patreon, IMNerd podcast. Check it out for exclusive content, episodes that only drop on Patreon, video versions of the podcast, access to our Discord server, and a couple other things. So check that out. We have Connie, Austin, Leon, Quest, Garen, Xavier, Hylian, TCG Automotive, Tyree Tinsley, Dimitri Barnes, Alexander Brissett, Vinny Casello, Giovanni Avelos, Alex Flamer, Andre Reynolds, CJ, WK-1, Saul at Dabbers Gaming Cafe, Dan Vrabel, Dennis Milburn, Joseph Marcello, First to Home, Dallas Fernaris, S. Akuma, Mitchell Nels, Midwest Gaming, William Shapiro, Dimitri Safiridis, Vince Marquette, Dallas Bailey, KJ, Biz, Roz Weiss, Nick Stango, Scott Polera, Hansel, our two-time national champion, Vincent Zen, Sarah Maria. Thank you guys so much. Special shout out to Sarah also.
Sarah's new, right?
Sarah is new. She just joined recently.
Yeah, Sarah's new.
She's also my really good friend from New York. She comes to every Philly regional almost, and she hangs out with me. We go to the Reading Terminal. We get food every time, and we just hang out and talk. And honestly, she's one of my favorite people in the Yu-Gi-Oh community and just in general. So shout out to Sarah. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're hearing this. But yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast. We really appreciate it. It goes a long way. And as I always say, do the things that make you happy. Quest, if you want to say anything before we get out of here, you are free to do so.
Don't do drugs. Shout outs to all of SAs, most specifically Deuce Miette, Trevor Allen, and Quentin Brown. Y'all are real. Oh, and Sal Pulido, because he's my best friend. Thanks for having me on. This was great. We will have to do this in the future when I have money again.
Yeah, I am definitely down to do this again in the future. This is really fun. So this was
a lot of fun. Good conversation. Easy conversation too.
Yeah, it was actually extremely easy.
We'll use this time. You asked about it the other day. When are we going to have another match? Let's set that up soon.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do an Edison. Let's do one of our duels, our shadow games. That's what it's called. Let's do a shadow game, and it'll be Edison format if you don't mind. I would like to play some Edison format.
Yes.
So
I have tweaked the spaceship deck.
Well, I have a lot of decks, and a lot of them are rants on my. I have my dueling book is literally like 30 different Edison decks, and obviously I'm competitive, so some of them are like pretty competitive. But then I have ones that are just like they will never see the light of a tournament. So I'll be using rants as well as some competitive decks as well.
Do what you do.
Do what I do. All right, guys, we're getting out of here. Do what makes you happy.
Peace. Peace.